Hello everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. It's time for round number 6 of the iRacing Road Pro Series, streaming live here on RaceSpot TV and on iRacing Live. I'm Connery Maddock, and joining me today will be the ever lovely duo of Jake Sperry and Jonathan Simone. Qualifying is well underway, and well, Jake, it's Formula Cars, it's Monza. Surely it doesn't get any better than this, right?
It doesn't. It's one of the greatest races that you'll see. The Italian Grand Prix has certainly always been a spectacle, so much of a spectacle that it used to have its very own special event here on the iRacing service. But the time is coming in. Michael Dinkel currently the quickest right now on a 1:22.361. The Apex Racing UK driver looking to get inside that top 10, which has been proven today, Connery, to be such a difficult asset heading into round 6.
Very, very difficult indeed. As we look at the track conditions out there on circuit right now, clear in the air, not a cloud to see, and well, 40 degrees on the track as well, Johnny. That is going to be pretty tricky for these drivers during this qualifying session. And at a track like Monza, as an ex-driver, how do you qualify quickly here?
Well, it's all about late braking and straight line speed around here. You want to minimize the drag across these long straights. You also need to have a strong rear anti-roll bar, really, for those traction zones. So that's the critical aspect. As we see Josh Rogers climb to the top of the timing sheets, those are the critical aspects here. But most of all is your mental mindset. You know, how about a bit of aggression at Monza? Attack the chicanes. Go through the Lesmos as smoothly as possible. And that Ascari chicane, Connery, is one of my most hated corners because I don't think I've ever gotten it right in all of, you know, in any single car or track, well, car I've ever been in here.
Yep, as Michael Partington heads his way across the line for his third lap. Actually, we're not set a lap time. We're still waiting for lap times to come in from the likes of Istvan Ballo, David Williams, Aurelian Talamont, Ricardo Orozco, Matteo Calistani, Tommy Osgard, and Alex Simpson as well. In fact, Alex Simpson is on the lap here. And just take us through this lap here, Jake, as he heads his way through the Curva Grande.
Curva Grande, he's already dealt with the Rectifilios. He's flat out 333 kilometers an hour on the brakes, then into the Variante della Roggia. Very easy to get this corner wrong, especially with gravel right up on the exit. He negotiates that no problem. Both Lesmos, then Lesmo 1, right-hander, almost out of place on a very quick stop-starty circuit like this one here at Monza, but he goes through Lesmo 2 very well. Maybe a little bit wide on the exit, but pretty much okay as he dealt with the AstroTurf on exit. Now he makes this run down the hill, up the hill, DRS to Ascari, and he moves across very late to get up onto this section, trying to straight line the corners as much as he possibly can. Left, right, left, and he gets onto it. One corner left to go is the most important one. Parabolica, so feared, so fearsome, so easy for the vehicle to just switch around on you if you are not paying attention on the brakes to just 165 kilometers an hour. Back up onto the power, drive to the line for the Apex Racing UK driver, who's second in the championship as things stands coming in through this event, and he crosses the line for a 22.8. That's only good enough for position number 8.
You have to say P number 8 is, I don't think Alex is going to be too happy with that one. Of course, he's a driver that has many seasons of the World Championship Series under his belt. Actually, yes, Joshua K. Rogers on the lap right now. They've also got the likes of the cars down the field, the likes of Ricardo Orozco heading his way across the line to set his timed lap, puts himself up in towards that P number 5 spot on the grid at this moment in time. We're still waiting for Tommy Osgard, Esteban Ballo, Matteo Calistani, and David Williams, but eyes towards Joshua K. Rogers. This is his final qualifying lap, Johnny. He only needs to cut 2 more tenths to get himself pole position.
Yeah, he's got a difficult corner coming up, the worst corner on this racetrack, but it's so challenging under the old oval, which you can also use in iRacing. Under braking for Ascari. Now, it's very difficult. You don't want to hit those anti-cut curves, but he's made a mockery of the entrance and the exit too, so that car not stable at all through that chicane. He's going to come towards the Parabolica now. You want to trail brake through here, carry a bit of speed and brake on an angle, basically, is what we're trying to say. Roll on the throttle, and again, the car just doesn't look stable, and he's going to cut the track, but I don't think that's a quick time at all. It's not going to pit Michael Dinkel at all for the top of pole position.
Yeah, and actually Moritz Lohner putting a fantastic time in that number 2 car, bringing himself up in towards P number 3 at this moment in time. We've got the likes of Jorge Montanez on their final laps. We're still waiting for Oscar Calastani, David Williams to make their way through, as Montanez heading his way down towards the Parabolica right now. Montanez only P number 16 in this qualifying session so far. Would want a little bit more for that Positive Sim Racing team as he drives to the line. Past the pit road entry there. What sort of time does he set for his final qualifying time? It's a 22.9. Does improve. Heads himself up and towards P number 14. Just drops Josh Thompson and Zon Jonjic down. And looking back, Tommy Ostgaard, he's heading his way through the Parabolica now on his first time lap. So he'll get another one after this to try and improve. So they'll bank a lap possibly for Tommy Ostgaard as he heads his way across the line now. And it's going to be a 122.9 for him. Puts him up towards P number 13 on the grid. We also got Casares back towards David Williams as Williams gets a huge slide there coming through the Ascari chicane. That's not going to be helping his lap times in any way as he heads on the run down towards the Parabolica now. What can the VRS Co-Anda Simsport driver do? He's headed his way into these open wheel cars after predominantly racing in GT machines, and we all know how strong he is in those machines, but he has pulled off some good results in this McLaren MP430 drive to the line for him, and it's going to be a 122.6 for his first lap, and that's a fantastic time. Puts him up into P number 6 after Jake. It wasn't really a great race for him at Kota, just stuck at the back of the field. That's the start he wants. That's
the start he definitely wants and definitely needs, as there's still drivers who can change the essence of this one. Alex Simpson in the 05 will make the run through Parabolica. He is not in a position where he wants to be, scrapping it lower down the field, but as we have seen from a few drivers, positions can be gained, especially after what we saw last year in the Road to Pro. 122.5 from Alex Simpson to position number 5. He bumps down Freddie Rasmussen onto the second part of the third row. Not exactly what is wanted in terms of that situation. You've still got the likes of Matteo Calastani yet to set a lap time. He needs something right now. Currently outside the top 10 in the championship, looking towards the top 20, but looking to try and get as much as he possibly can on this run, looking to go through. And well, heading over that line, it's a 123.1. Johnny, that's not good enough for him. He's behind Josh Thompson and he's way down the order.
Yeah, definitely not good for him. At Monza, you can overtake, but I think the dirty air, especially when you travel towards Ascari and the Parabolica, and there's real overtaking spots here into the first chicane and the Curva Grande after that into the second chicane, the Della Roggia. So there really isn't, you know, as much of the long straights here help. It's not entirely easy to make overtakes. But anyway, let's have a look at Riley Preston now, who's coming towards the end of his lap.
Yes, he is. He drives towards the Parabolica now, down onto the brakes into here. Currently qualified in P number 8 as things stand with a 122.649. Does he improve on this lap? It's been a relatively clean one as he heads his way across the line right about now. What's the lap time? A 122.4. That's a fantastic time for Riley Preston. Gets himself up in towards P number 3. Great lap from the ERT driver, Johnny.
Yeah, but the story of the day, Michael Dinkel is, again, quicker in qualifying. So if he wants to get a race win, I think Monza is a good shot for him. But great time from Riley Preston regardless. And an Australian second and third right now on the grid. Not on the same row, but right next to each other.
Yep, exactly. As the number 5 of Tommy Ostgaard is going to be the next one across the line. He heads his way through the Parabolica. Now qualified currently in P number 14. And let's see what he can do as he takes that characteristic wide line, wide exit out of the Parabolica there. 122.5 for him. Another good time coming late on in this qualifying session. Gets him up into P number 5. And fantastic time for the Norwegian driver. Means he's starting well up through the field. We still got the likes of David Williams out there on track as well. In fact, the only car out there on track. And I believe this is a timed lap for him. So he will be the last person to set a qualifying time here. Currently P number 9. And let's see if he can improve on that P number 9. He'll need to improve on a couple of hundredths of a second to gain himself one position over the one of Frederick Rasmussen. And we'll talk about that one a little bit later, Jake, as David Williams will head his way across the line. Final qualifier for the session, a 122.648. Fractionally slower for him as he decides to head his way into a concrete barrier, but less about that one the better. But I just want to talk about Frederick Rasmussen for a little bit here before we go to the qualifying results, Jake. That's not a very good qualifying for him, I have to say.
And we saw that the track just rubbered up later on in this session, and Frederik Rasmussen just had nothing in his early laps. Talk about a 22.9 opening lap, a 22.6 on his final lap. He's half a second slower than Michael Dinkel. That's not where he wants to be. And he's down in position 8, having to scrap. Yes, he's third in the championship, but he's already used his drop week. He can't afford to be getting into a very dangerous situation on what is a narrow opening lap.
Yeah, him and his teammate has already used their drop weeks, as we will go through the qualifying grid as it stands for split number 1. It's going to be Michael Dinkel taking pole position with a 1:22.1 in what is a very, very warm qualifying session there. We'll see if that will still be the case for the race, or the conditions will completely change. Joshua K. Rogers will line up next to Dinkel on the front row with a 1:22.3. Then we've got Riley Preston and March Luchner. Luchner putting in a very good lap time to get himself up to P number 4. Tommy Osgaard, P number 5. Then we've got Alexis Sebastian Job, Alex Simpson, Frederik Rasmussen, David Williams, and Ricardo Orozco rounding out your top 10. And then you've got Zelensky, Partington, Talman, Spolzer bringing things down towards P number 14. You've got Diego Oliveira, Zoran Jonjic, Jorge Montanes, Josh Thompson, Matthew Calastani, Giuseppe Ragusa, and Eric Andre Istvan Ballo. And of course, the number 71 car of Nicholas Rasmussen rounding out this 23-car qualifying session. Now, before we go to a little bit of a break here, Johnny, and I just want to mention that I already mentioned that Frederik Rasmussen, terrible qualifying for him, but it wasn't much better qualifying for Sebastian Job. And when you consider that Sebastian Job, he's way down in the standings in terms of points because of the various incidents that he's had over the course of this season. He's used his drop week already. He's had more bad races than his drop week as well. And after this race, there are no drop weeks to try and factor in, and every race counts. So he's in a very tricky spot here, and it could be one of the biggest upsets that we've ever seen if Sebastian Job doesn't make it to the World Championship Grand Prix Series.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, the first chicane at Monza at the start doesn't help. So his biggest challenge right now is getting off the line cleanly and not being swamped by everybody else behind. So he's got to look ahead, stay out of trouble, and then make your moves out in the racetrack. I think being aggressive is the last thing you need to do here into turn 1, because it's just the risk versus reward is just too much at the moment to risk. So very important for those two core drivers to get a clean start and then pick everybody off one by one. If they do indeed have the race pace, we didn't even know yet if they have the pace to win this race. So we're going to find out after qualifying and after our pre-race show.
Yeah, because it was a little bit of a weird qualifying session, Jay, because the track temperature was so high, 40 degrees. So that is going to be very, very tough on the drivers in terms of them trying to adapt to the track conditions. I don't know many people who practice in such hot track conditions. I know drivers would do a couple of laps in changeable conditions, but with the way this qualifying was right now, Michael Dinkel taking pole position, Joshua Rogers on the front row with him. We usually consider Joshua Rogers fast in colder weather, but he's just put in a stonking qualifying time in what is a track that's baking hot.
Well, Josh Rogers has had to do all that he's needed to do in this situation. That's just qualify and put in a very good lap time. To be on the front row is about as safe a place as you can be here at Monza. There's no real places to hide when you get around this circuit. You look at Josh Rogers, he'll be happy on that front row with Michael Dinkel, knowing how far down the order Michael Dinkel is in terms of the championship. So Rogers doing everything that he needs to do, staying ahead of all his rivals and making sure that he is putting his health first and making sure that he is the first candidate to potentially put himself into that iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series.
Yeah, exactly. And coming back to you, Johnny, with Sebastian Job, Frederik Rasmussen, pretty much in the thick of things heading down towards turn number 1. And this first complex is one of the trickiest of the entire calendar. You basically get the car slowed down to pretty much a crawl to get yourself through there 2 wide, sometimes 3 wide on the first lap. It's so tricky. And with the way Sebastian Job's starts have been, and with the way Frederik Rasmussen's starts have been this season, which has been not all that great, we could see some fireworks on this start.
Yeah, we could. So then again, we have a lot of talent here around. So these guys are the best in the world, and they're not expected to collide and crash into each other like everyone expects in sim racing. Generally, these starts are clean, and that's what we're going to see. But it is also the Pro Series, and we have to remember that the reward of getting a World Championship license is very important. And those down the order who are struggling to finish in the top 10 in the points at the moment could be the ones who are most aggressive here at the start. So that's critical to watch out for. Plenty of different start procedures too. And most importantly, we know how terrible Sebastian Job was at the starts. Then last round, Rasmussen was pretty, terrible. He had a bad start. So let's see if Seb this round actually gets off the line cleanly and gets off quick. There's about 3 different ways you can start in this McLaren, but we'll talk about it soon.
Yeah, and I believe that you, Mr. Jake Sperry, do have the current championship standings.
I do, and looking at it, Josh Rogers may be safe at this moment with a 60-point lead over Alex Simpson right now. And, well, that 60-point lead just gets a lot larger with Frederick Rasmussen having used his drop week still in 3rd position. Tommy Osgaard 4th, Partington 5th, who missed out on the race at the circuit that we had last time out at Circuit of the Americas, will be ruining the fact that he's had to use that drop week. So you look further down as well, and this is the big point of contention that we like talking about, Connery. Sebastian Job is in position number 8 on 833 points. Can't afford anything bad happening. The good news is Jonjic and Thompson, they haven't had the best of qualifyings here today, 9th and 10th in the championship. But you look further down, the likes of Riley Preston, the likes of Diogo Oliveira, the likes of Ricardo Orozco, and also you could look down even further to position 22 with Michael Dinkel. They will be taking advantage, taking points away, gaining those big money moments to get themselves right up that championship and to put them into those top 10 positions. And when you talk about, say, from 10th down to 15th being split by just 60-odd points, not over in this championship.
And staying with you just for a moment here, Jake, the one name that kind of just really does stand out to me when you look at the qualifying standings here, when you look at the point standings, is that name of Bobby Zalenski. And I don't think any of us would have put him inside of the top 10 coming into this Pro Series. We saw him in the iRacing Grand Prix Series that we used to have on a Sunday afternoon, and he was usually sort of mid-pack, sort of the back of the pack there, but he has really come alive in this Pro Series. I'm not sure what's gotten to him.
Well, I think Bobby Zalenski has this amazing ability to be very versatile and have an amazing adaptability. I say this to any driver. It's so much easier going from oval to road than it is going from road to oval. And Bobby Zalenski, arguably a man with 9,000 9,000 oval iRacing, shall I say, not necessarily 9,000 road iRacing yet. Bobby Zalenski has learnt to adapt to this McLaren MP430 a lot quicker than a lot of other drivers would do. And the fact that he's doing this on his own, that he is putting all this effort in, and he is putting himself at that high level. He said it himself, this isn't slip angle helping him. This is him on his own doing this effort. If he needs a team, go out there and try and get him, put him on your team, give him some setup help, and he'll go even faster. I can guarantee that Zalenski could be the big surprise that gets into the top 10 in this championship.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the fastest privateers that I have ever seen, Johnny. And to do that with pretty much just on your own, working with the steps. Of course, he might test with a couple of other people, but for all intents and purposes, he's on his own. Step Animal Motorsports aren't going to help him with his road setups, for example. So, he could be a huge commodity for some team that are looking for drivers at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. It's never easy on your own setting up the car or getting all that practice done as well. You don't want to be too lonely. So what you generally see is drivers sometimes will pair up with other teams or other friends and drivers they have that may be in the Pro Series, and they'll be testing together. So that's one aspect that they also look out for. But to be honest with you, it's one of the toughest asking in sim racing is to race in the World Championship or in the Pro Series on your own and to test. That you could not ask for more out of a driver. To be honest, just the sheer grind week after week of putting in all those hours day after day as well. And sometimes you'll realize that with a team you actually gain a few tenths, and it's just by saving time, by not missing critical setup areas that you would have missed if you were on your own, or just being able to relax a bit more and not having to test as much. So there's so many aspects that go into it.
There are so many aspects. And Jake, who would be your pick for this race? You've got at least one right so far this season. Try and get another one right.
Try and get another one right indeed. Well, we've seen just how difficult qualifying has been, can be, but I'm going to go outside of the box this one. I think Tommy Osgaard has a very good chance within this one. We know how good his starts have been this season, that all of Positive Sim Racing starts have been this season. I think Tommy Osgaard, who has been the perennial mover, he's in a great position for this event in position number 5. I think he can make up at least 2 positions off this start, get himself into that scrap. Something may happen between Dinkel and Rogers, and he may have that opportunity to run away. I want to note that this race last season had 5 different leaders at any given stage, which included drivers that you wouldn't normally expect, like MSP Phoenix Racing's Lucas Gotch. This is a circuit that produces the unexpected here on iRacing, and I think Tommy Osgaard has it in him today.
Yeah, could be hugely exciting. And what about you, Johnny? Who do you think is going to be the biggest mover, potentially getting themselves up to that P1 number 1 spot?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Michael Dinkel from pole looks quick, but he's had pole position a couple times this season already, so we don't know if he's going to make the most of it. But for someone like Josh Rogers, previous race winner this season, he's got a chance. Let's not underrate Riley Preston too much. That guy is quick, and he's got experience too, which is critical. So if I had to pick a dark horse, it would only be the core drivers, Sebastian Job or Freddie Rasmussen. I want to see what their race pace is like. Those guys down there in the 3rd and 4th row, God, that's danger. You never want to underestimate drivers who should be winning this series, who are starting 6th or wherever they're starting right now, 6th and 8th. So let's see what happens with them.
Yeah, big moves required for the likes of Job, Simpson, Rasmussen, likes of Orozco down there as well. But I'm just looking all the way down to the bottom of the qualifying standings. The likes of Nicholas Rasmussen down there, Jake. And, well, we all know Nicholas Rasmussen, fantastic defender in his own right. Race pace is generally okay for him, but a very disappointing qualifying.
It is disappointing for Nicholas Rasmussen, but I think that what Nicholas is doing this season is that he's learning. He's trying to understand what it takes to be at that high level, because he hasn't been in this sort of level of competition before. Yes, he's been a perennial driver in the iRacing Grand Prix series, but you're only going to find 1 or 2 drivers with World Championship capabilities. You may run into a Davide Corpse at one stage. You may run into a Peter Barryman at another stage. There's no guarantees that you're going to be getting the likes of all these drivers who are incredibly quick, wanting to make that qualifying effort. And I think for Nicholas Rasmussen, I think that this is a very big learning curve, and that the circuit like this, which is very different to a lot of other circuits, I'm not sure that suits his driving style.
No, I'm not sure either. And as we're getting to the latter stages of this season, Johnny, this is the last race where it is a droppable week. So every race up until this point, you can drop 1 week from the standings. Your worst result does not count. Heading into the final 4 rounds, every single one of those races counts. So you cannot afford to make a mistake.
Yeah, definitely not. So, I mean, that's going to be through the driver's mind. And the most easiest point to lose a race is at the start, which we're about to see in a few minutes' time. Plenty of different ways to start, and I promised you we'd talk about them, but generally there'll be drivers who are in a high ERS deployment mode. They'll go 100% throttle, back down to 70, and once you hit about 100 to 120 kilometers an hour, you floor it again, and that's probably the longest or slowest way to start the car. Some drivers have a hand clutch which they use, and that's probably the quickest way. So they'll drop 1 clutch and then slowly release the other. But then there are also drivers who will just find the bite point, and it's a lot difficult to do it that way. I can't even be bothered explaining, but it takes a lot of practice, and definitely something that I was experimenting with during the week and will never try ever again in my life.
Yeah, and just a final couple of words for you before we head ourselves towards this race session, Jake. As I said, the start is going to be absolutely crucial as they try to file their way through the Rettifilio chicane. But once we get this race underway, where are going to be the crucial points that we have to be looking out there on track?
It depends on track temperature, because you are going to be seeing some moves potentially up into Ascari with the second DRS zone. You may see an attempt into Parabolica, but you most likely wait for that opportunity into turn number 1, where it's a lot more decisive. But I think it all depends on the temperature. Normally we talk about 1 stop and 2 stop. Today this is a much different circuit. This is the shortest race on the calendar. It's normally about an hour and a quarter. And because it's normally an hour and a quarter, there is the potential for the no stop to happen if track conditions are cool or are overcast. And I think that opportunity may save out for drivers in the long run. And I think we may see some very, very interesting decisions here today.
I, for one, cannot wait to see what will happen during the race, but we're going to go to a little bit of ad break here. We will be back for the green flag here for round number 6 of the iRacing Pro Series from Monza. Don't go away.
Red Bull GRCs are now available on iRacing. I personally put my blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, developing the cars, the tracks, the dirt, making sure it is authentic as possible, and I really think you guys are going to love it. The best part is that this 600 horsepower Volkswagen Beetle is free to all members. So get signed up now and come race me online.
The yellow flag is out. Pit road is now open. Keep your eye on those gauges. We'll give you 4 tyres. 3, 2, 1, now. We're done. Get going.
Well, welcome back to what is going to be the race session for round number 6 here at Autodromo Nazionale Monza. Round number 6 is going to be as drivers will get their warm-up sessions done. It's going to be me, Connery Maddock, and Jake Sperry, Jonathan Simone as well, taking you through the rest of this race session here. And wow, it was a very interesting qualifying indeed, but things have cooled down both in the drivers' heads and out there on track as well. Partly cloudy, 24 degrees Celsius, and the air track temperature is 33 degrees, so nowhere near the 40 degrees that we previously saw in the qualifying session. Let's just have a quick run through your qualifying grid right now. Pole position is going to be Michael Dinkel for Apex Racing UK. Joshua Rogers will join him on the front row. Second row will consist of Riley Preston, Moritz Lohner, and third row, Tommy Osgaard, Sebastian Job will start themselves from P5 and 6. Alex Simpson, Fredrik Rasmussen, P7, P8. David Williams and Ricardo Roscoe will round out your top 10 on the grid. Then cycling things back, we've got the likes of Bobby Zelensky, Partington, Bergeron, Talmon, Spolstra, Diego Oliveira, Zon Jonjic, Jorge Montanes, Josh Thompson, Fabrizio Gobbi rounding out your top 20. Then further back, in the back of the field, Matteo Calistani, Giuseppe Ragusa, Adam Tierney, Carl Winkler, Carl Germanton, and Eric Andre, Istvan Ballo, Evan Nicholas Rasmussen, and Evan Lathoris getting themselves onto the grid as well, as we have a little bit of a bigger grid here in the race than we did in qualifying. A couple of guys that were in split 2 of qualifying find themselves in split number 1 for the race here, as we will start to get ourselves set up for the grid. But just a quick couple of words from you, Jake. How is this going to pan out?
Precariously, I think, as I try and get some words out. This is not a race that you want to be losing out on here today. You want to make sure that you are as clean and as precise as possible, giving enough space for drivers into the opening few corners.
Yeah, you really do have to, as Johnny, that first turn is going to be oh so precarious. These cars at the back of the field are going to be approaching that turn number 1 braking zone at quite a closing speed compared to the front of the field. Could cause a little bit of carnage. Will we see another start of the race bit of carnage for this race, or is everything going to be fine?
It should be fine. These guys are professionals, and they should be able to practice in the past week or 2 weeks anyway. Their braking points, their brake markers, and to make no mistakes, heading into that first turn, very long run to turn 1, the speed builds up.
Yep, the revs will build up as well. Round number 6 here at Monza for the iRacing Road Pro Series gets itself underway. Fantastic start for your pole positions there. 3 wide off the start for P number 2, potentially 4 wide, heading down into towards the Retavilla chicane. 4 wide they will go, falling back to 2 by 2. Coming down into the first corner, Moritz Lohner gets himself up into P number 2, side by side between Tommy Osgaard and Joshua Rogers as well, as they all try to file their way through, as there's a huge incident behind. The car turned around. That's Michael Partington, as they all stack up through there. But I think he is one of the only victims. In fact, no, there's a car up and over on its roof, on its roll bar. That's the number 19 car of Aurelian Talmon. We did get the start carnage that we expected, Jake.
Yeah, we did, and that was not ideal for Aurelian Talmon. 4 wide at the start is precarious. It is always very difficult here at the Circuit of Monza, but it was well negotiated by these drivers. Look at Moritz Lohner. He's already up to 2nd, and if there was any doubts about his abilities as a driver, this is the proof in the pudding now. He's chasing down Michael Dinkel.
Yeah, it was an absolutely brilliant start from Michael Dinkel. He just basically launched that car like a rocket ship off the line. Such a difference between his start and pretty much everyone else's, at least inside of that top 10. He'll work on trying to break himself away even before the DRS starts to get into effect here, as Joshua Rogers now trying to track down Riley Preston. They've dropped themselves back down towards P number 3. Ashley Rocher's P number 4 at this moment in time. A side-by-side behind, though, between Sebastian Job and Alex Simpson. Alex Simpson has to go a long way around at the Parabolica, which is actually the preferred line coming off of the exit, but we expect to see Sebastian Job potentially replying, coming down onto the brakes in towards Ruretta Villiers chicane. They will be battling ahead for P number 3 as well, as battle for P number 3, battle for P number 5 it is. Sebastian Job will try and head his way down the inside. He will. Riley Preston slow in the second part of the Ruretta Villiers chicane there. He was battling with Joshua Rogers, and I think Joshua Rogers headed his way through, Johnny.
Yeah, good fights throughout the field. Now we get to see the real core sim racing pace of Sebastian Job and Freddie Rasmussen. Poor starts from the both of them, but they start to chip away at the field one by one.
Yes, they will, as Rasmussen has lost, Frederick Rasmussen has actually lost 2 positions on that start there. So the theme of bad starts to Rasmussen does continue on in this race, as looking back to Josh Thompson. Josh Thompson is on his roof. What has happened here in the Della Roggia chicane? And that is contact with the number 18 machine of Giuseppe Ragusa, heading side by side down into what is a very, very tight chicane. It's one of the hardest chicanes to overtake out here on this track. And Ragusa, I don't think Josh Thompson maybe didn't leave him enough space there on the inside, and Ragusa had to go right over the curb to try and get himself past. And actually his Radicals Online teammates, actually Josh Thompson's Radicals Online teammate Adam Tierney, also got himself involved in that one in the aftermath, Jake.
Yes, and that's not ideal for them, not what they want to be seeing, not at this stage at all. So it's going to be about now just trying to recover in this event, trying to go through. Tommy Ostgaard now trying to apply the pressure as it's lap 3. DRS will be open then when they get to the next zone, but Ostgaard's going to sit and wait behind Riley Preston, not going to make this move just yet, allowing Sebastian Joe behind to close down that gap in the battle going on P4 and down. And now it's a waiting game. Now drivers start thinking, well, what's my strategy card? How am I going to play this race? The good news is for Michael Dinkel at the front, it's only 0.8 of a second right now. He's on the fringes of breaking Moritz Lohner.
Yeah, and Johnny, the only job that Moritz Lohner needs to do at this moment in time is stay within that DRS zone, because it is oh so powerful here at Monza. You've got the DRS zone heading down out of the second Lesmo down towards the Ascari chicane. You've also got the one coming out of Parabolica heading down that very, very long main straight down towards the Rettifilio chicane. But that gap is in fact now starting to break. It's starting to dip over that 1 second mark, and Lohner, this is not what he needs right now. This will just make Michael Dinkel get away at the front.
Yeah, he had no DRS on the run down to the Ascari chicane, so he's already out of that 1 second barrier. As we have David Williams off the racetrack, he's down the order and he's starting to lose more and more time. Oh boy, tough rejoin. Let's have a look at Freddie Rasmussen in front. He's got a shot here at the PSR car of Ricardo Orozco heading into the Parabolica. Now that outside line, as you mentioned, Connery, that works well here at the Parabolica. Lots of grip, but Ricardo has that rubber now. They're going to be alongside each other across this straight, and again in front. Almost a 3-car battle there.
Oh, here comes Sebastian Job down the middle of 2 cars. Number 2 driver down the middle of those 2 drivers. They're heading down onto the brakes into the Rettifilio chicane. Fantastic move for Sebastian Job. I'm not sure what stacked up the field so much coming down into there, but that was certainly very, very interesting. And Sebastian Job, he just basically wants to make up as many positions this early on after his lackluster qualifying, and that's certainly one way to do that, Jake.
Yeah, double DRS for Sebastian Job. Caught Riley Preston napping without any DRS. That was always going to be easy, but it was the toe that he got off of Preston onto Ostgaard that made the move. And Sebastian Job now flings his way up into position number 4 as he looks to chase down the likes of Rogers and Lohner now, who are starting to move closer together in the battle for second position out on circuit. This allows Alex Simpson and Frederick Rasmussen, Orozco and Williams onto this train, and Bobby Zelensky waiting in 11th position. He has managed to just close down that gap, and he will now latch onto the back of this train to look to go a little bit further forward in this one. Right now in the pit stop window, you could argue maybe you're looking at what is a very mediocre circuit in terms of heat today. Looking at maybe around lap 20, lap 21 for a chance.
Yeah, exactly. So standard one-stop strategy. It's going to be no shenanigans with alternate strategies. At least we don't think so in this race. As P number 2, battle for P number 2 on Moritz Lohner and Joshua Rogers. Joshua Rogers heads his way through, gains back his qualifying position, and now he has to focus on trying to track down the Apex Racing UK driver of Michael Dinkel just ahead of them. Over the past couple of laps, Johnny, Michael Dinkel has definitely pulled out the gap. Moritz Lohner really benefiting from a very good start. It just seems like he can't run the same pace as the Apex Racing UK driver, just 2 positions ahead of him.
Yeah, so that's important, because in Michael Dinkel's situation, you want both Josh Rogers, Sebastian Job, anybody else who's quick behind, you want them all impeded by traffic. And so right now, with Rogers being released into P2 and hunting down Dinkel, it's not ideal for him right now on lap 5 of the event. So he wanted them to lose a bit more time, but I think right now we'll see Dinkel's true pace. He might have to start pushing a little bit quicker. But as Jake said, that one-stop window around lap 20, that's pushing at lap 20, but definitely lap 22. So around lap 20 to 22 is when we'll see these cars start to come in. But we've also seen a 0-stop here in the World Championship this season. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody 0-stops here today.
ultimately could potentially be very, very brave. As side by side between Alex Simpson and Riley Preston. Here comes Freddie Rasmussen around the outside of Preston. Here's a Preston absolutely hemorrhaging positions at this stage in the race. He's down 5 positions already on his qualifying position, and he is looking to lose yet more to the likes of Ricardo Orozco behind as he heads his way side by side coming down the main straight here. Here comes Freddie Rasmussen on Alex Simpson coming down towards the Rettofilio chicane. So 2 by 2 they will go down into the chicane, and Rasmussen will come out on top of Simpson there. Ricardo Orozco and Preston still battling through the Rettofilio chicane, but a fantastic drive off the corner means that the 7 of Riley Preston will successfully defend the position, but for now. But look at how close Ricardo Orozco is stalking right there. He's going to try to get himself around the outside of Curva Grande, on the exit of Curva Grande, onto the brakes, into the Del Roger now. He has the inside line. That was crucial, but he does skip over the curb a little bit. That could be a slowdown penalty, and around goes Riley Preston behind.
And that's down to damage, I think. I think he's got suspension issues here with the front left. The front left of that machine does not look healthy for Riley Preston. A driver 12th in the championship, needing to score major points, and damage could be what is costing Riley Preston overall. He's now behind his teammate Boris Spolstra. He's now down to position 16.
Yeah, lost 13 positions at this moment in time as we are looking at the Brazilian driver of Ricardo Orozco at this moment in time. He's currently being chased down by the likes of David Williams and Bobby Zelensky. Alex Bergeron is also trying to get himself involved in this particular battle. Of course, he did have a pro license last season. He did get P number 20 in the last Pro Series, which basically qualified him for a pro license. And, well, that's not going to do it in this season. You need to be top 10 to get yourself a Pro World Championship license, so more work needing to be done for him to try and get his pro license. As David Williams closing up, coming into the Rettofilio chicane. Look at the overspeed that he gets with the DRS, and with Ricardo Orozco also harvesting ERS there, Johnny. That was just very, very simple.
Yeah, good move, and he wasn't stuck in those DRS and ERS trains that we normally see, because Monza is one of those circuits that's one of the biggest culprit of those. But it's good to see plenty of overtaking in these opening laps. Drivers shuffled all over the field. And that's David Williams into P8 as he goes through that second chicane. So I'm not sure what's wrong with Riley Preston, because he had the damage, as we mentioned, but at the same time, that car just might be difficult to handle with heavy fuel. You know, he was very quick in qualifying with a low fuel load. Sometimes when you put a driver back on a heavy fuel load with just a few minutes to warm up, it can really get into their heads. And so that car might be a huge challenge for him in the heavy or early stages of the event.
Looking at the car, there is a slight bit of damage to that front wing, and I don't know what the state of the suspension is at the moment, as Joshua Rogers is 7/10 faster than Dinkel on lap number 6. So that is the sort of pace that these drivers are running right now. When Moritz Leuchner was in P number 2, that gap started to open up to near enough 2 seconds, but now that gap is below 1 second. No DRS this time, though, for Joshua Rogers, because he wasn't below 1 second at the DRS detection point. But if he keeps within that 1 second, Jake, he's going to have the DRS, and he has the absolute race pace right now, I feel, at least in this early stage.
Not only has he got the race pace, but he's dragging Moritz Leuchner back with him into this battle. And that's going to be crucial, because we saw Moritz Leuchner struggle on that early race pace. But the moment that he's managed to latch onto the back of Josh Rogers, he's using him as a way to go forward. And that is working with him in this battle at the front between Dinkel and Rogers here. And Moritz Leuchner could be a dark horse, as Josh Rogers now brings that gap within 0.6 of a second.
Yep, the representative of that Heukensveld Core Motorsports team could potentially make a big impact on this race. And it'll be one of the first times that he has done so in this whole iRacing Road Pro Series for this season. But currently it is a little bit of an DRS train down from P number 3 all the way back to what is going to be the tail end of that one. It's going to be Boris Spolstra, Diego Oliveira. So as the state of things at the moment, defensive move from Bergeron in number 25 coming into the Ascari chicane, trying to fend off Zoran Jonjic, as Zoran Jonjic up 5 positions on his qualifying position already, just looking for more over the young Canadian driver, the young Quebecois driver, I believe is the correct term there, Johnny, as they head their way through Parabolica.
Yeah, it is. So come towards this very difficult final corner, and now with that tarmac runoff, it's completely ruined the corner, but that's not iRacing's fault. They just laser scan the circuit. They don't decide what goes there. As now Jonjic has a look at Alex Bergeron. They're going to be alongside each other into the first corner, and that's smart by Alex Bergeron. Release the brake pedal, run a bit deeper into the corner and defend the position. The only issue is that it compromises you on the exit for this long run to the second chicane, the Della Roggia.
Yeah, but look at the overspeed that Jonjic has, because Bertrand had to save a little bit of VRS. He saw that light blinking coming through the middle of the Curva Grande, and an easy move it was around the outside for the Iron Race team driver to make his way through. Meanwhile, the state of things at the front, well, the state of things is that they are closing up. Joshua Rogers currently almost just over 0.5 of a second behind Michael Dinkel at this moment in time, has the full effect of the slipstream, has the full effect of the DRS. And what does he do in this sort of situation, Jake? Does he want the track position? Does he want the race lead? Or does he just stick behind now and just look to see what he can do when we come towards the pit stop phase?
Well, it'll be easier now than later. The more that you stick behind a driver, the more that you can get frustrated here in terms of this one. They have to make sure that they are working hard to make sure that they make the moves that they want to. If I was Josh Rogers, I'd make the move and run, but he may decide to try and save on the DRS ERS, but he's not. Look at how he closes, but he's not going to be close enough when he comes to the braking zone. He's got to sit and wait. There'll be a second opportunity, a second bite of the cherry maybe into the Della Roggia, but Michael Dinkel very, very quick off the exit.
Yeah, Rasmussen and Tommy Ostgaard side by side down into the Rettifilia, and Rasmussen will come out on top of that one to move him up in towards P number 5. So top 5 finish will be decent for him. That's pretty much all he needs, with him being at the top of the championship standings, or relatively near the top of the championship standings right now, once we factor in drop weeks. So he doesn't need to be fighting tooth and nail for every single position. He can be a little bit more comfortable at this stage because he has such a point advantage, Johnny.
Yeah, but this is back to the lead battle. This is so important for the core sim racing duo of Job and Rasmussen, because with Rogers now struggling to get past the German and Michael Dinkel, he's actually losing time that he should have been gaining. And those two ever quick young men in Sebastian Job and Freddie Rasmussen are closing in on these two. They've only got Moritz Lochner in the way. Dinkel, his race pace looks like he's just progressively starting to dig his own grave here. He's got no pace at all, so go through the final corner. Poor exit for Rogers. Is he going to stay stuck behind Dinkel for another lap? Let's see.
Could possibly be, as that rear wing flap will get itself wide open as harvesting ERS is Michael Dinkel at the end of the straight. It will be an easy pass for Rogers down driver's right-hand side. So Joshua Rogers taking the race lead at this moment in time. But as we had at the race here in the World Championship Grand Prix Series and of course in the Pro Series, we can have multiple leaders potentially on the cards. But in terms of this one, Joshua Rogers, Michael Dinkel, they'll try to look to break away from the likes of Lohnert, Job and Rasmussen, as Rasmussen has kind of just been dropped a little bit. He's not got the DRS from his teammates, but he is setting faster lap times on the order of 0.6 of a second faster at this stage in the race. So expect him to close up in the not too distant future. Cycling things back though, we still got the battle on though for P number 8 between Ricardo Orozco and the VRS Commander SimSport driver of David Williams. Williams was only 0.1 of a second faster last time by as they start to skip over the curb in towards the second Lesmo on the run down towards the Ascari chicane now. DRS wide open for David Williams as he heads his way up into that particular section of track. Is actually looking behind Nicholas Rasmussen, having major issues. And what has happened to the number 22 driver? I think it's issues of a technical nature, I believe there, Jake, so such a shame for him.
Yeah, shame for Nicholas Rasmussen, and that could pretty much dead and bury his chances of finishing top 10 in this season, but it will still be a good learning curve regardless. David Williams, though, VRS Commander SimSport, ex-World Championship driver back in the era of the Williams FW31. And, well, and looking at the battle, it looks like Moritz Lochner has lost a position here as Sebastian Job has dived one down the inside and made that one look pretty easy as things stands there, Connery.
Yeah, and also David Williams finds his way past the positive sim racing driver of Ricardo Orozco. So 2 position changes in a very short time span. And Sebastian Job, he is setting those timing boards alight right now. He was the fastest man of anyone that last time by, and he's been setting lap times in that 1:24 margin for pretty much the majority of this race. The only sort of laps in that one was the first 3 laps and lap number 10. All of the rest of the lap times have been in that 1:24 mark, and that is impressive there from the core sim racing driver, Johnny.
Yeah, exactly. Consistent pace. Anybody who's successful in motor racing, they just consistently bang out lap after lap after lap around a similar range of lap times. And Sebastian Job's one of these guys who could potentially be a world champion if he gets the license, by the way. We have no idea how this series is going to go. So he's got to actually get the license first before he has a shot at the championship. But Right now, he's on the provisional podium, and you can see Michael Dinkel ahead. So that's what I was talking about. If Dinkel held up Rogers for a couple more laps, Rogers would have been within about 1 or 2 seconds of Job. So very important that Josh got past.
Crucially, Michael Dinkel has actually fallen out of the DRS zone. He didn't have DRS heading down the pit straight that time by. So this is the opportunity that Rogers needs to get himself a breakaway at the front. Try and give himself a buffer for when the pit stops arrive. Is looking back through the field. Alex Bergeron was battling with Alexis Spoltra and Oliveira heading down towards the rectification chicane. In fact, loses those 2 positions there. So terrible run out of Parabolica for the Evolution Racing team. Driver puts him behind, at least at this stage. But you know, looking at Moritz Lohner, Jake, what does he do now? He had that fantastic start, got himself those couple of positions. What is his game plan now?
It's a Mark Webber syndrome you feel right now for Moritz Lohner. He had a great start, but he's dropping backwards a little bit here, and he's needing to now just stem the bleeding, try and stay within a second of Job. That's the most difficult challenge in the world. But all he's got to do is maybe think about something. Hope that somebody has some special strategy back at Hoyts-Velkel Motorsports. They've got Andre Borcher, an ex-driver, in these McLaren MP430s. Because at the rate that this is going for Moritz Lohner, he may not even make a top 10 if he's not too careful. He is dropping back. I could see him in a scrap late on in this race with the likes of Williams and Orozco.
Yep, as we actually will see a replay of the race start. And this was absolute carnage, Johnny. 4 wide coming down in towards the Rectifilia chicane for P number 2. And then behind, it was just calamity.
Yeah, the width of the racetrack here is so narrow. So to make it almost 4 wide, I think they tried to do it. Then they backed off. It was Rogers and Oscar as well who had to back off. Lohner, though, from that second row was immense. He just skyrocketed away off the line from 4th position, went straight past Rogers. Unfortunately, now he's falling down behind the field. But more impressively, though, Connery, the start from Michael Dinkel, so underrated. That was one of the best starts I've ever seen in this car.
I did mention it at the time. He basically was like a rocket off of the line. I don't think anyone's seen anyone start that well from pole position, just pulling out a huge gap on the order of a couple of tenths of a second already, coming down into the first turn. That is really, really impressive stuff. And, well, we've seen the very, very good starts from the Apex Racing UK cars. That seems to be a thing that they're very, very good at in this series and, of course, in the World Championship Grand Prix series as well. And that theme seems to be continuing as the closest battle on track right now is the one between David Williams and Ricardo Orozco. Of course, Williams managed to get himself past the Brazilian just a couple of laps ago, but Orozco not dropping off the back, Jake.
No, Ricardo Orozco not dropping off to the back of David Williams, and Orozco needs championship points as much as anybody else does. David Williams missed the opening round of the season, so his drop week very much used up. And behind that as well, Bobby Zelensky versus Zoran Jonjic. Jonjic looking to go +7 in the early stages of this event. He just manages to finish so well from time to time to time, but it's a waiting game for Orozco. He's thinking about making that move, but he was saving a lot of ERS down that straight. Won't have that ability. Jonjic another lap as well.
Yeah, maybe he's just winding up for a pass on the next couple of laps, just saving those batteries up so they can deploy it all at once coming out of the Parabolica turn, to slingshot themselves past on the pit straight. But things are not happening currently for Ricardo Orozco as looking back towards the front of the field, yet the gap still is coming down between Michael Dinkel and Sebastian Job here. 0.3 of a second was the deficit last time by that Dinkel is having to deal with. Job is closing in lap by lap by lap, and I don't think as much Dinkel could really do in this situation, Johnny.
No, so he's just going to keep lapping away, as I always say. I think right now he might be focusing on strategy too, because if he's 1-stopping or ridiculously 0-stopping, you obviously don't have to worry about strategy. But if he's 1-stopping, that pit window is opening up in a few more laps' time. If he can avoid a battle with Sebastian Job in that time, he saves those vital few seconds that could keep him on the podium come the end of this race. Because for some reason, Freddie Rasmussen's pace has dropped off. I thought he was going to be close behind, but yet not close at all to Sebastian Job at this stage of the race. So Freddie Rasmussen lacking the pace of his teammate at this point in time, although it was 0.4 quicker last lap around, so maybe he's just trying to prove me wrong.
Yeah, just as you say that, he goes and sets a 1:25.1, which is the fastest of anyone that last time by. So a little bit of the curse of the commentator there, but Fredrik Rasmussen still trying to chase down that Heukenfeldt Core Motorsports car, and he is doing so very, very well right now. With more laps like that, definitely needed to try and get himself up into P number 4. But like I said before, it's not like he needs these positions at this stage. He has quite a comfortable points margin in the championship. He's no risk, at least at this stage, from losing and dropping out of that top 10 positions in the standings. So I think he'll be taking things relatively calm from here on out, just getting towards these race finishes. And that's going to be so crucial in these last 4 races when there are no drop weeks to play with, Jake.
Exactly, but there is a psychological advantage of going into the championship, or the iRacing World Championship, as the number 1 driver compared to the number 7 or 8 driver. There is that difference that comes into play. There is that difference that means that there is maybe less stress put on you the lower down you are. But Rasmussen still within that one, and there was 3 thousandths in front for Sebastian Job to miss the DRS zone. That is massive, but here comes Rasmussen down to the inside, making it look very comfortable here, and Moritz Lohner had no respite to try and get back.
No response at all, no defense of the inside line coming down into there for Moritz Lohner. Just basically saw what was coming, saw Freddie coming at a rate of knots and decided, you know, there's not much I can do about this one. Just lets him by, just try and stick with him now and maybe try and let Rasmussen drag him back up towards the front. Yeah, and Job has hugely gained on your race, your P number 2 driver at the moment. And that was going to be 1:25.2 from him last time by, 1:25.493 from Michael Zinkel that last time by. DRS is definitely in effect for Sebastian Job on the run towards Ascari, but this is the DRS zone which you can't really do much with, because the Ascari chicane isn't really much of an overtaking opportunity. The main overtaking opportunity is down on the brakes, coming down in towards the Rettifilio chicane, but there is just in one more corner's time, or one more corner's time. Sebastian Job will look to head his way through the parabolic and now setting himself up for a good run coming through here on the exit. Zinkel manages to get the power down relatively comfortably. Job dropping back just a little bit. Will have the DRS as they head their way across the start-finish line. You see that rear wing flag does open, but is he close enough to make the move down the inside into the Rettifilio chicane? Look at the closing speed is so big, because down towards the inside he goes to Sebastian Job and gets himself up into P number 2, Jake. Just a brilliant move.
And that was all down to a mistake at the Variante della Roggia for Michael Dinkel. 1 lap ago, he ran far too deep through that section, and that was enough to close Sebastian Job back in. Now Job up to 2nd from starting 6th on the grid. He's now got 3 seconds to chase down to Josh Rogers, and if anyone can, Job is the man who can push it, but he can't afford to push too much. We've seen 2 mistakes this season that have cost him races.
Yeah, we've seen Sebastian Job and his self-spins. They've been the prevailing topic in this series. Let's just hope for his sake that they doesn't happen again, as Bobby Zelensky does drop himself 2 positions in the Rettifilio chicane. He was very slow, and in fact, he's gone off again onto the grass in towards the Della Roggia chicane. Just completely skipped the chicane. Just didn't get it down on the brakes. That's completely abort it.
Not sure what happened there. He's lucky he didn't run off the racetrack rejoining. So I think he's got damage, because his wheels aren't pointing in the right direction, at least. So I think that might be the issue there, Connery, as we're watching him. He definitely has damage. He's trying to... Yeah, he's trying to... Yeah, he can't even... That's one of the worst cars to drive right now. I think he's got to park that. That car's done.
Yeah, because he's basically a danger to everyone out there on track at this point, so I definitely bring that one down on towards the lane and unfortunately retire the car, because they can't repair the suspension damage on these cars. But battle between Ricardo Orozco and David Williams is still going on. In fact, Ricardo Orozco, just on that past moment, did manage to get himself past David Williams before the DRS even came into effect. So that must have been an absolutely terrible run for Williams coming through the parabolic, and in fact it was. He pushed onto the green sort of paint there on the outside of the corner. He's quite lucky there, because that used to be grass and gravel in that section, so he's thanking the track designers for the new design of the parabolica there. Otherwise, that could have been very different, Jake.
Yeah, that could have been very different indeed, and a lucky man. He gets himself away with an escape, but you could say out of the race, Bobby Zelensky. That's a shame for a driver who's been pushing so much in this event to do so much to get forward and get through and do exactly what is needed. And, well, Zoran Jonjic as well was getting a little bit involved in that one with Bobby Zelensky as well, so maybe not entirely to blame at turn number 1, because if you had that damage at 1 heading through 4, there were sleeping policemen as well, which wouldn't have helped. You can't afford to be getting involved in silly little incidents like this, especially when you're at that bottom end of the top 10 where every point becomes so vital. You need to make sure that you're gaining as much as you can. And Rasmussen also maybe getting DRS here, Connery.
Yeah, let's see if that rear-wing flag opens. In fact, it does not. So it was very, very close, very slim margin to him being able to get the DRS and not getting the DRS. But if the overall trend continues with him just pulling in a couple of tenths of a second a lap up towards Michael Dinkel, then this lap surely he's going to get it on the run down towards the Ascari chicane, at least as they head their way through the Curva Grande for the 20th time in this event. We're going to go for 53 laps of racing, as we said at the start of the broadcast, the shortest race time on the calendar, so this one will go by quite quickly. There's a couple of bits of oversteer there for Rasmussen heading his way in the De La Roja chicane, heading through the Lesmos now, and another little twitch coming through the first Lesmo. I'm always concerned with these course sim racing cars, Johnny, that they're just oh so twitchy sometimes, as again he goes onto the gravel through the second Lesmo, and otherwise he just continues on his way just fine.
You can tell they've been pushing, because Sebastian Job's also been the same. He's been trying to attack those curbs at the chicanes. Through Ascari comes Rasmussen, and crystal clear, nice and clean. Brilliant stuff through there for Freddie. So you're just trying to extract as much lap time as you can and trying to reduce it as you cross the line for another time. This will be lap 20 as Rogers crosses the line, and that's the pit window opening. So as Rasmussen comes across, a couple of small twitches again, and he probably won't get past Dinkel this time around. He'll have to... That'd be almost impossible at this point in time, but 350 kilometers an hour with DRS, definitely capable of overtaking if it comes to the need.
Yeah, because he's within a second now, but he just wasn't within a second at the DRS detection point, and that is the crucial point on track. It doesn't matter if you get towards within a second at the end of the straight. If you're not within 1 second at the activation point, then you're not going to get DRS. As Boris Spoltra and and Zoran Jonjic, were battling down in towards the red Tafilia chicane for P number 10. And these are sort of the crucial points in the standings right now. Get yourself in towards the P number 10, and you could have a good chance. The spots are heavy towards the inside of the Curva Grande there. Jonjic did sense an opportunity coming down into there, but down into the De La Roja they will go. And Jonjic just going to stay behind for now. So a little bit of a spat between these two drivers. Evolution Racing Team versus the Orion Race Team. And as I said, these points could be crucial, Jake, especially with where these drivers are in the standings.
And a big wiggle there, a big wiggle for Boris Spolstra through the first Lesmo. Unable to capitalize was the driver of Zoran Jonjic, who had an ironclad door shut firmly on him through Curva Grande earlier on in this lap. Jonjic then looking at every single opportunity to try and make a way down the inside. Not happening, but we got ourselves the pit stop window well and truly open in this one as vehicles trying to come in and out here in this stage of the event.
Yeah, he is, and well, they will just head their way by the pit lane at least one more time here, as we are, as you said, the pit window is well and truly open, and we'll see if any drivers come in. Alex Simpson does decide to head his way down on towards the lane for a relatively early stop here, so he'll get his fresh rubber and run to the end here. We've also got Alex Bergeron coming down on towards the lane for Evolution Racing Team as well. Will Jorge Montanez join them? It looks like from the arc of his line that he is going to come down on towards the lane, and in fact he does. Get it slowed down way before the yellow cones there. And that's not exactly ideal, Johnny. You want to be able to maximize that pit entry, and Montanez, he basically got it down to pit road speed like 20 meters before the yellow cones.
Yeah, I've passed 2 cars before on pit entry to Monza. True story. And I came out of the pits in front of them too. So if you're not going to practice that and break at the absolute last minute, then I'll be sure to take advantage of it. And these drivers up the front will do the same. Alex Simpson, quick stop. I'd assume he'd be the last to take an early stop, but maybe this is a tactical change for him. He's out and away. He's right behind. It looks like that may be Evan Lathoris in front. Evan had an abysmal round at Suzuka trying to let cars by when he was being lapped, so hopefully not this time around at Monza. Sure, he'll do a better job. And let's see if anybody else reacts to Alex Simpson at this point in time. He's going to have the fresh rubber, maybe undercut a few drivers, but it could hamper him towards the end of the event.
could well hamper him, as Ashley Dinkel and Rasmussen, they are very close heading in towards the Rettifilia chicane, but still no opportunity for the number 1 car to head his way by. Roscoe and David Williams will head their way down on towards the lane for their one and only scheduled stop here, trying to reply perhaps to the likes of Alex Simpson just pitting just 1 lap earlier. As we look to where Alex Simpson is, he's just coming through the Parabolica now, and where are the likes of those 2 drivers of David Williams, Ricardo Roscoe, going to come out? They're off their stalls already. They're heading down on towards the pit, pit exit. Alex Simpson does get ahead of both of them, as they're absolutely very, very close. They're coming through the green cones there. Ricardo Roscoe will get himself away and ahead of David Williams, as I think this is going to be a battle to the end there between Roscoe and Williams, as they will head their way down in towards the first chicane here after their first stops. We're still waiting for the vast majority of the drivers in your field to head their way down. Like so, your race leader Sebastian Job and race leader Rogers and P number 2 driver Sebastian Job and Dinkel as well. And now does he dive down early? That is the question. Try to get the jump over Sebastian Job, but the thing is, with the gap that he has right now, I don't think that's going to be too effective. Sebastian Job can basically cover it off by pitting just on the next lap.
And you look at it, maybe Freddie Rasmussen's thinking about diving in, and there's an as well.
Rogers.
In comes Rogers, in comes Job. So the pair of them will come in at exactly the same time, lap 24. That allows Rasmussen and Dinkel to continue out there. And this is for the overall race lead, not the net one yet. And I think this is a bad move by Freddie Rasmussen.
Yeah, it could well be, as Rogers gets himself stopped in the box, and Rob gets himself stopped as well, as Oscar and Jonjic, Lochner and Oliveira also heading their way down on towards the lane. Rogers will get out first. We expected that. Sebastian Job will head his way past the green cones as well, as the other drivers still stationary in their boxes. Off goes Tommy Ostgaard, the Norwegian driver, and Mark Lochner as well. He will get himself his service done. Zoran Jonjic will get himself away, and Diego Oliveira as well, as this pit stop cycle tries to cycle itself through. Evan Lathuris down on towards the lane as well. And I think Dinkel and Rasmussen, they kind of just Rasmussen's just kind of backed himself into a corner here, Johnny. I think you know, I'm with the opinion of Jake here. I think he should just come down that lap.
Well, maybe zero stopping. Who knows? We don't know if someone's zero stopping yet. We'll find out this lap around anyway. I doubt they are, but if Joni Tormala can do it, anybody can. Here's Rasmussen to the Parabolica. Dinkel again. They're all using ERS, by the way, out of this Parabolica corner. That's where they deploy most of it, out of the first chicane too, obviously. Small twitch for Rasmussen, not the first time that's happened. And then they both pit. Early braking for Dinkel, and that's hampered Rasmussen's entry too, so slowed them both down.
Yep, definitely, as the 2 drivers head their way down on towards the lane. Dinkel did get that lap led, of course, but unfortunately for him, no bonus points for leading a lap here in this series. But heading his way down in towards his pit stall, he will do, as Rasmussen gets himself stopped, and Dinkel gets himself stopped only just there. As actually Rasmussen, yep, he did. And actually, it's going to be side by side in the pit lane here, and they're only going 64, 65 kilometers an hour, side by side through the green cones. They'll go. Rasmussen will get the power down first. Dinkel clips the wall just a little bit on the pit exit here. That's absolutely crucial, and Rasmussen has headed his way by. He's done it in the pit stops.
Yeah, but that's just the worst box for Dinkel. That's what happens when you qualify on pole. You get that front box, the walls there on the inside, and you have to angle your car a little bit better to exit. And that's cost a lot of people in the past and will do in the future in the pit stop phase. And that's what happens there for Michael Dinkel. And he's now slotted his way outside those podium position spots. But more importantly, Job and Rogers now in a straight fight for P1. Only 2 seconds between the two. So Job's getting closer and closer.
Yeah, Job's race pace so far in this race has been absolutely fantastic, but can it match the race pace of the young Australian driver of Joshua Rogers? He's already got himself a race win this season. He got the race win at the Suzuka after holding on to what seemed like tires that basically tried to kill him every single corner, as Alex Simpson manages to get himself by the car of Carl Winkler there. We're still waiting for Winkler to head his way down on towards the lane. In fact, he's pretty much the only car we're still waiting for to head his way down on towards the lane. So unless he's going for the no-stop strategy, I think he's going to be down in the next couple of laps. We will just have to see, as Carl Winkler, part of that Core Sim Racing team, of course, not as full of pace as his teammates. I think that one's for certain. But he has been competing in that split 2 so far in the first couple of rounds of this series. And he might have to do something very, very radically different here to get himself further up in the points, Jake.
And I think it's a good decision, actually, if you're someone like Winkler, who started 24th, to go to the no-stop, shall I say. You've got absolutely nothing to lose in this situation. You get yourself up right now where he is, position number 6. He continues on to the end. Yes, his tyres are going to be a second, 2 seconds a lap here, and 3 seconds a lap slower right now is what we're looking at after that 1:27 poor lap. You look at where he'll be coming out to the end of it. You're looking at someone who's P19 at this stage. They're about 50 seconds off of the lead right now. That's a 30-second gap that he's got to hold on to. And to gain someone like Evan Lathoris right now, who's running 25.5s a second and a half, you'll be happy with that come the end of the event.
Yeah, I think he will be, but that is all assuming that he is actually going for this zero-stop strategy, or he's just going very, very deep in this first stint to try and get fresher tyres all the way to the end. We'll have to see what he does as Oscar. Whoa, that's a huge fist tail coming up towards the Ascari chicane. Somehow he holds on to that. What? That was insane, Johnny.
Maybe he was flopping. That's like the motorsport equivalent of flopping. Or maybe he was just trying to pull off a fake move in front to Carl Winkler. That's a big save, but I think that's with DRS. The car's just hard to handle, and he might have hit the bump, is what you're talking about there, Connery, and that's true. There's a small bump on the middle of the racetrack, and what a save from Tommy.
Yeah, and well, drivers usually try to avoid that bump heading his way up towards the Scottish chicane, and he did hit the bump as we get confirmation of that. But Carl Winkler just finally deciding to head his way and not going for that zero-stop strategy. He's going to get himself some fresh rubber, and he'll have the fresher tyres off pretty much everyone in this field at the end of this race here in the second stint. So expect him to be making some moves in this second stint. But Dinkel and Rasmussen still relatively close to this stage. They're not breaking away from each other at all. Or rather, Rasmussen's not breaking away from Dinkel at all. Pretty much identical lap times that last time by. So Rasmussen still needs to put in a little bit more work here if he wants to get anything better than P number 3. You've also got the likes of Alex Simpson behind, though. That could potentially be an issue as well. And we've also got Tommy Ostgaard, Moritz Lohner as well. That could potentially be battling for position. 0.2 of a second was the advantage to Ricardo Orozco that last time by. He could potentially make himself a force to be reckoned with, as he did. He has had a couple of very good results so far in this series, got a good couple of points, but he's still one of those drivers that are at a risk of not getting the Pro WC license. And that would be such a shame, Johnny, because Orozco, I think he's basically one of the more underrated drivers in this field.
Yeah, and PSR will be disappointed too, because they'll want as many cars as they can into the World Championship, and it's so important for Ricardo, a Brazilian too, to be in there. We need more Brazilians on the grid, so you know how many talented drivers have come from there. He's got a shot here at David Williams for P8. He's on the main straight. DRS open and engage. They use all the ERS power for this long straight, and then out of this first chicane too, it's important to deploy ERS. Don't want to use it all on that main straight, but David Williams won't be easy to pass. Driver coach too, he'll certainly know where to place his car, I hope, Connery. He should be, you know, otherwise we'll criticize him to the max if he makes a mistake here.
Yeah, that's a little bit of unneeded pressure on the VRS coach there. You know, this is a driver that you want to be learning from. So if he gets himself involved in an incident that may be his fault, then that might not look too kindly upon him. But moving off of that particular topic, he is still just trying to manage that gap to Orozco. Pretty much identical lap times that last time by. Is cycling things back, though, through the field. Things are looking potentially closing up for P number 13 out there on circuit. Alex Bergeron and Matteo Calistani could be a thing in the next couple of laps if Calistani continues to catch bit by bit by bit over the next couple of laps. He's going to try and get within that DRS zone, will not get it this time heading towards the Ascari chicane. But meanwhile, at the front, Joshua Rogers pulling out a gap at the moment. Another 1/10 of a second goes to his way. But the fastest driver out there on circuit right now is that number 1 machine of Freddie Rasmussen, Jake.
It is, and Freddie Rasmussen, a 24 flat that last time by, another 4/10 away from Michael Dinkel, trying to break that 1 second. But the issue for Rasmussen is the big number of 7.4 seconds. Yes, he was a 10th quicker, but he's got himself 25 laps from here to get to the end of this event. 25 laps to close down 7 seconds. You'll be relying on one thing that was very apparent in the early stage or in the late stages of the first stint, that Joshua Rogers' tyres go off a lot quicker than the core sim racing ones. So yes, he is quicker by 1/10 of a second, half a 1/10 of a second each lap at this stage. That will come apart the moment that Rogers' tyres start failing on him.
Yeah, exactly. At 1/10 of a second a lap, he basically needs 73 laps, which there are definitely not 73 laps left in this race. So he either needs to pick up the pace even further, or, as you say, hope that Joshua Rogers' tyres fall off a cliff like they did at Suzuka. But even at Suzuka, Johnny, Rogers still was able to hold on.
Yeah, exactly. So at Monza, the tyres don't seem to go off too quickly anyway. It's mostly the rear tyres here because of all the traction zones and how this circuit is very stop-start in nature, but there's only 11 turns at this circuit, so there aren't really many fast sweeping corners either. Fastest you'll get is something like the Parabolica, but even then you're not really, you know, on the throttle too much. You're really trail braking into the corner and then on the throttle rolling off, not too much understeer. So tire wear at Monza is extremely minimal, and that's why you won't see many drivers make pit stops or struggle with tire wear anyway. It become very desperate if it comes to that, you know, that case.
And it doesn't look like there's going to be much pressure from behind, though, for Fredrik Rasmussen, because he has broken the DRS to the Apex Racing UK driver of Michael Dinkel. So now he can settle himself back into the rhythm, as these drivers, they are sometimes clipping the gravel, on the exit of these Lesmos. Both Lesmos does Fredrik Rasmussen clip the gravel there. And it doesn't seem to be affecting him too much, so continue doing what you're doing there, Fredrik Rasmussen. But now, as I said, he can settle into this rhythm now, not having to worry about the driver behind, because he has broken the DRS. No need to watch that relative time tick down on the straights as that DRS comes into effect. He can just focus on trying to get himself a better podium position than P number 3. Closest battle inside your top 10 is going to be Osgaard versus Lohner here. Osgaard managed to pull out 1/10 of a second that last time by, but Lohner's definitely still there with the DRS in effect as well. Not on the run down towards the Parabolica, not DRS zone there, but DRS zone coming out of here on the exit of it as a wider line taken there from the Norwegian. He's going to have to try to defend the move as he's going to harvest ERS early here. That could be his death sentence as Lohner just swings his way by driver's right-hand side. And that is thank you very much from the Hoykontrol Core Motorsports driver. He gets that move done relatively easily, Jake.
Yeah, that was a comfortable move, and if they're not careful, if they keep trading positions like this, they'll allow Alex Simpson to break away, who is only 2.2 seconds down the road from Osgaard when he crossed the line, so I expect Moritz Lohner to close that gap down a little bit further. The thing is, Alex Simpson, like Michael Dinkel as well, Apex seem to be struggling on these stints, very similar to like they were during the 2017 World Championship Series. They'd get amazing starts and then they'd start dropping back because their race pace wasn't quite there. But the big thing is they are still in some very good positions, and Alex Simpson said it very perfectly in one of the interviews that we did with him after the race. He doesn't care whether he goes in first or goes in 10th into this championship. As long as he's in that championship, he's happy.
Yeah, exactly. Even though he only did a couple of races last time out in the World Championship Grand Prix Series, of course, with the new rules potentially coming into effect, that mean you have to have a certain amount of participation in the World Championship Grand Prix Series to be able to keep your license. That could be a thing heading in towards the next season, and once we get the 10 drivers from this series into that particular series. But yet more very quick laps coming out from Fredrik Rasmussen. A 124.1 the last time by is a 124 flat the previous time, and he's taking on order of 2/10 of a second out your leaders at this point. This is more like it. This is what he needs, Johnny.
He does. So got 4 seconds on job. Alex Simpson was supposed to retire this year, and that's why he only did a couple of races, but found the passion again, found the time, something that happens to everybody. And he's not the young man with the world at his hands and at his feet, whatever the quote is, and where he can just sim race for 4 or 5 hours a day. He has to manage his own business. He's going to do all this other stuff behind the scenes. He's also team owner, team manager at Apex, so not easy for him in his late 30s, but he's going to give it another shot next season. And he's a veteran now in the World Championship. He's been there for a few years. I don't think he's no longer classed as a new guy anymore, you'd say. And so he's got I think his chances are well here. He's got Michael Dinkel on board, who is looking like he's going to be back too. Dinkel halfway through the season sort of just needed a break from all the testing and the grind that the sim racing scene is. You add on Jamie Fluke, Peter Berryman, all the rest of the Apex guys behind. Marcus Jensen has been ever impressive, the young man, as well. So let's see how that team fares next season. I think at the moment they look like they're third best, unless Core Sim Racing can maybe knock them off that spot.
Yeah, definitely known Apex for a while, and I actually raced in one of their leagues when they used to be back when they were ARL, before that particular split happened, with splitting into AOR and, of course, the Apex Racing UK. But yeah, that is quite a history for this team. And Alex Simpson, I remember when he first announced that they were going to try to qualify, trying to get themselves into the World Championship Grand Prix Series, and when they finally did it, it was a pretty big occasion for them. But now they are pretty much a mainstay in that World Championship Grand Prix Series now, Jake. They've been in for the past couple of seasons. They've had some very, very good results with the likes of Sebastian Job when he was a part of that team, and the likes of Graham Carroll as well. But still, no race win for them just yet, I don't think.
No race win just yet, but the sides are very good. You look at a driver that Apex has like Marcus Jensen at this stage, you see just how Apex are developing, and they tried to sign everyone off at the back of 2016. That tactic didn't quite work out the way they would have hoped, but the point of the matter is they have now developed a very good stable of drivers. You talk about Antoine Higeland having some very good drives the last season. You talk about, yes, the likes of Peter Berryman on his day getting a pole position. That was fantastic for him, and I think Peter Berryman, when he turns up and when he races, could be one of those drivers who does challenge Martin Kroenke on a relatively consistent basis. But the whole point of the matter is Apex have a lot of work to do, but losing drivers like Sebastian Job has been a deficit for them, because you look at what Job's done over the last couple of laps, that's 7/10 of a second in 2 laps he's just taken out.
Yeah, exactly, and Rogers' tyres starting to go away as we will just round down the majority of your field as it stands at lap number 34 of 53 in this event. Currently, it is Joshua Rogers currently leading the field around, but he is going to be a challenge potentially in the next couple of laps from Sebastian Job. Fredrik Rasmussen currently on the 3rd step of the podium. Michael Dinkel on P number 4, he's dropping back somewhat from Rasmussen. Then we've got the likes of Alex Simpson, Moritz Lund, P number 5 and 6. Tommy Osgaard, David Williams, Ricardo Orozco, and Zoran Jonjic will round out your top 10. And then down through the field, you got the likes of Oliveira, Spolstra, Partington as well. We've got Bergeron, who's had an okay race, all things considered, and Matthew Calistani in P number 15 as well. And he has actually gained 6 positions on his qualifying position. The biggest mover in your entire field is that number 12 machine of Zoran Jonjic, gaining 7 positions when all is said and done. And that fact, actually, scratch that. Looking back further through the field, it's going to be Evan Lathoris, gaining 9 positions from P number 29 up into P number 20. So a decent gain for him. Let's see if he can hold on to those positions gained at the end of the race here, as you know, Rogers is starting to kind of reply at this stage at the front of the field. He pretty much matched Sebastian Job's lap time there that last time by Johnny. Let's see if he still has some life left in those tires.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he's going to make sure he sustains the adequate pace to win this race. Josh Rogers, he's no stranger to the top step of the podium. Neither are the 2 drivers behind. And Michael Dinkel's had a lot of success in the IndyCar and the DW12. Still fast in open wheelers. It does translate between similar characteristics of cars. You know, open wheel drivers are fast in most open wheelers, etc., etc. Now, Job comes through Ascari. It's so difficult because there are a couple of bumps as we look at Tommy Osgaard here. A couple of bumps through Ascari that just make it so difficult. Here's Osgaard. No bump for him, so he doesn't flop this time around. Goes through Ascari and can't get past Moritz Lochner. Do you remember when Moritz Lochner was 2nd in the early laps, Connery? Now he's down in 6th.
Yeah, I do remember. Well, it was an absolutely brilliant start for him, but if you can't hold on to those positions, then you're just going to drop right back through the field. It was a good qualifying for him as well. Don't get me wrong. It just seems like the race pace for that Hutchinsville Core Motorsports car just isn't really there. And as a result, he's back in P number 6, risking dropping back towards P number 7, as Oscar does have the run down the main straight. DRS wide open for him. Will harvest the ERS, though. Still potentially looks for the move into red to Philly. It does close up, but no, not brave enough on the brakes to go down the inside from that far back. So just yet one more lap staying behind required for Tommy Ostgaard in that number 9 machine at this moment in time. Then the battle further back through the field. You've got one for P number 17, Riley Preston versus Carl Winkler. And have to remember, Carl Winkler had a very, very late stop, so he's on much fresher tires than Riley Preston right now. Preston, qualified P number 3, dropped back to that P number 17 after an earlier incident in the opening couple of laps. And here comes Carl Winkler making the DRS pass down driver's right-hand side. Easily done for him. Very, very simple with the fresher tires, with the DRS, with the slipstream. And actually, Michael Partington, he's down towards the lane.
Michael Partington down again, so...
Yeah, he crashed after the rectifier.
Wow, that's surprising out of Michael Partington, and a driver who is inside the top 10, position 5 overall. That is surprising. So looking at this incident as he goes through, I think he's just been a little bit too greedy on that curb, gets massive, massive revs as he comes over it, and it just spears him right into the Armco. And that is about as scary as an incident that a driver will see by having the brakes fail on you.
Yeah, that's a huge mental error. He needed to stay off that curb because there's a lack of grip for him. So unfortunate for Michael Partington, who's having a great Pro Series season so far. That Montreal race and that comeback. Fortunately, this car was too damaged to make a comeback here today, but he's certainly a quick driver that should be in the World Championship for sure. Well deserved of it. So hopefully he can bounce back from this.
Yeah, he's lucky that this is one of the weeks where you can count towards your dropped scores at the end of the season. So it's not like he did that in the final 4 rounds of the season. That would be absolutely fatal to his license grabbing hopes, shall we say. But yeah, hopefully he can bounce back from this one. It's just a very silly mistake to make, and it's just pushing at that sort of 100%, 110%, and just making a mistake as a result of pushing so hard, just trying to get the maximum out of the car, maximum out of the track, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. And you just saw that there with him getting the oversteer and snap oversteer coming off over the curb. Closest battle still on track, though, is Oscar and Lohner. These guys have been together for a good couple of laps here, but it doesn't seem like one has the pace over the other. They seem pretty evenly matched, Jake. So this one is one that could potentially go right to the end with 16 laps to go.
Well, Osgard has the fight, he has the desire, but fight and desire do not make positions when it comes to racing. You've got to make sure that you put the vehicle in the right position to make it happen. Good run off the exit, though, for the Positive Sim Racing Norwegian, as he looks to get past the Hoytson-Velco Motorsports driver of Moritz Lohner right now. You can see he's just saving, he's waiting, unable to do anything as they match each other moment for moment. Big dive down to the inside, but he has to jam on the brakes as the ironclad door firmly closes in the face of Tommy Osgard.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that move was on. He saw a slight gap open up. He thought, maybe if I just trail the brakes into here, I could potentially make things happen. But that door was always going to close in the front of his face there. And as a result, he's going to suffer from a little bit of increased tire wear because of the lockups there. Not too much, though, so I don't think it'll be affecting him all that much. But just keep an eye on his lap times in case I am wrong. Meanwhile, at the front, still a couple of tenths of a second being taken out. 1/10 of a second last lap went the way of Sebastian Job. He's within 2 seconds now, and a 2-second gap, or rather 1.9-second gap as it is right now. Over the next 15 laps, that's definitely possible, Johnny.
It definitely is. Osgard's incident, you practice those during the week. If you want to call it an incident, more of an attempt at an overtake, you're at practice, there's one day where you feel a bit bored, you don't want to be doing 20 laps straight of race pace or something. Just go out there and try the inside line into turn 1. Try and brake as late as possible. You might use that during the race. You know, you try different abnormal lines into corners, see how much grip and how much speed you can carry through there, and then when you go into a race, you'll be prepared for all these battles where you're off a different line which you've never practiced at all. And so that's what's so important for Osgard. If you can practice that inside braking line, you can dive bomb into a corner, send it up the inside and make the move done. But back to that lead battle, like you said, it's still close, but it's remained so stagnant between Rogers and Job. 1.8 seconds now. It looks like that's just, I mean, look at the lap time difference between the two. 5 thousandths of a second was Sebastian Job. He was slower than Josh Rogers. It might be the same person driving both cars at the same time, logged into 2 accounts.
Well, yeah, I mean, there have been instances of that in other series happening, but let's just not mention that. As the gap has come down over the last lap here, so we're expecting Sebastian Job to gain another couple of tenths this lap. We're to make up for his no gain on that last lap. Gap down to 1.8 on the relative timing, so we can expect a 1/10 of a second advantage to Sebastian Job as he heads his way across the line. And in fact, that is pretty much exactly what we get, almost to the thousandths of a second there. So thank you very much for proving me right there, Sebastian. But he will just try to continue working on, as actually Moritz Lohner and Oscar were side by side through the Parabolica, and Lohner could potentially get the pass back here on Oscar. As no, he would just back out of it. He potentially did have the overspeed here, and well, he doesn't have the DRS because Oscar managed to get himself by before the DRS even kicked in. But Lohner, he could have just slung himself back past here, there, or at least make side by side down into Rettifilio, because Oscar had the DRS to defend with, which is a very weird thing to say. But that was an interesting couple of seconds there between these two drivers, Jake.
Yeah, and that all comes down to the Variante Ascari, and Lohner had a frightening off over the anti-cut curbs. He got air and everything, managed to gather it up together in the infield, you could definitely say Ascari gets away with one, but with one position lost, the question becomes, is there damage to the front wing? Is there damage even to the under tray of that vehicle? That could be dangerous. No damage on that front wing, but I'd watch out for that under tray. That may be something very difficult when it comes to the splitter.
Yeah, could be an issue, as Oscar did go to right towards driver's left-hand side, coming out towards Ascari. He's learned his lesson about that bump coming out in the middle of the track. I think he can go extremely to the right or extremely to the left to avoid that bump, and Oscar picking the left-hand side of the track to try and get himself by and not have any further incidents coming through that particular section. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Joshua Rogers did manage to extend his gap by 1/10 of a second, so this gap is just fluctuating up and down by the same amount. And yeah, Rasmussen, what's happened to him in the Rettifilio chicane here? He gets on towards the brakes and just doesn't brake enough, I don't think, and doesn't actually lock up. Yeah, he did touch the grass, actually, and he will take the slowdown penalty there. Let's just see how far back he drops here, because Michael Dinkel isn't really close enough to challenge, so he's lucky in that respect. But in terms of getting himself up to P number 1 and P2, that is potentially P1 and 2 over for him.
Yeah, he caught the grass on the braking there a bit, Connery. So Rasmussen doing the right thing, letting himself go off of that throttle, off the brake even, shall I say, and just trying to ease that vehicle in. And Moritz Lohner now, as we look at number 4. Yeah, definitely struggling now.
Yeah, he straight-lined the chicane at the Della Roggia, so that means that Oscar gets himself back past, and Lohner at risk of losing the DRS. In fact, he does not have the DRS this time, heading his way out towards Ascari, so an absolutely fatal mistake from him. He's going to have to rely on clear air pace now to try and catch himself back up to the Brazilian. So this race, well, it initially went very, very well for Moritz Lohner. It's just that as the race has gone on, it's just progressively getting worse and worse as the cars decide to head their way by him. So let's see if he's able to try and get himself... Yeah, he's just dropped out the DRS now through the Parabolica, so he's not going to get it coming down through towards the pit straight. So Oscar definitely going to take those ones all day, heading his way by with the driver ahead of him having a little bit of an instant. Looking back through the field, though, Diego Oliveira currently has to be a little bit concerned about Boris Spolzer behind him, because Spolzer did catch 3/10 that last time by, and looking at the things this time by, it was actually going the other way. It was 1/10 to Diego Oliveira, but Spolzer definitely trying to get within that DRS zone as they head their way through the Rettifilio chicane. Now you have to say he's definitely within this zone at this moment in time. Ahead of them they've got Zoran Jonjic as well, who they are both catching, in fact, by a couple of tenths of a second a lap. So this could be a good battle for P number 10 coming up shortly if this trend continues, Johnny.
Yeah, these sort of garbage points, if you want to call them that way, they're still valuable though. Never know when they'll come in to hand. You can see the dust starting to come at the exit of that second chicane. It's on the racetrack a little bit, so everybody touching the gravel there, and it's starting to fly back onto the circuit. There's iRacing's sort of realistic track evolution now coming into play. You also see the track start to rubber in at different points of the circuit. It'll be ever evident at the Parabolica too. I love how Tommy Osgard is avoiding that bump as well, by the way, on the run down to the Ascari. He's been playing with fire a few laps. He's trying to find it again, but I wouldn't recommend that. So Probably best to keep avoiding it as Sebastian Job goes quicker and quicker lap after lap. He's 1.3 seconds behind Rogers.
Better safe than sorry for Ostgaard, as Moschlonha has brought himself back within that DRS zone, I believe. So good job for him over the last couple of laps to bring himself back into contention. But yeah, Sebastian Job has definitely closed that gap down at the front. See if Rogers replies to this one, or even if he has anything to reply with at this stage. Lap number 43 of 53. So coming up on 10 laps to go for these guys. Yeah, again, 10 laps for Joshua Rogers to hold on, with a charging Sebastian Job behind him, and we'll just see what happens here. That gap is actually coming back up, so Rogers is definitely replying on this lap. It's back up to around about 1.7 seconds, I would say the gap is on the relative timings, but on these straights it seems like Sebastian Job does close up, so it's a little bit of a lower wing setting perhaps on that Core Sim racing car, allows it to cut through the air much more efficiently on the straights, gets that straight line speed down as we head the way across the line. Going to be 0.6 seconds is the gap, so the gap back up to 1.6 in fact. So Job not quite doing enough at this stage, but he still has 10 laps to play with, Johnny, so he's not out yet.
Yeah, definitely not. So plenty of time remaining in this race. You just have to, at this point in time, it's so easy to lose concentration in these final few laps. You just have to make sure that if you start to, well, you're not going to be falling asleep obviously, but if you start to mentally start to fall asleep, you just need to keep talking to the engineer, keep everything in check. Where are the gaps? Have a look at the relative times. Don't try to distract yourself too much. That's so important. So as for Rogers now, he comes towards the second Lesmo. Oh, he's run off the racetrack there at Lesmo 2, Rogers. There you'll lose a couple of tenths from that. You can tell the heat's starting to come in, and you'll start to feel it in that cockpit, in the virtual cockpit.
Yeah, he definitely will. There's battle going on for P number 15 between Jorge Montañez and Carl Winkler. Winkler with the fresher tyres has managed to close up that gap, has the DRSing down in towards the rectifier, does not go for the move down the inside there, just waits at least one more lap if he doesn't get the move done anywhere else on the circuit on this lap number 44 that he's heading himself on towards now. And yep, that gap at the front has come down to around about 1.4 seconds, so 0.2 of a second lost there by Rogers for running wide. So let's just see what happens in the final 10 laps for them. Carl Winkler and Jorge Montañez still very close on circuit, as even though, Jake, these points, as Johnny said, don't really matter all that much since they're a little bit further down the field. You know, it's just more of a battle for, you know, just the bragging rights, I guess.
No, I think they matter a lot in comparison to Johnny's statement, and this is where we disagree, because Winkler in 17th still has a shot at the championship. Montañez 16th in the championship still has a shot at the championship. Every point's vital. When you think Riley Preston's dropping points, when you think that you got drivers struggling here today like Josh Thompson, who is out, who is 10th in the championship, Bobby Zelensky out 11th in the championship. Crucial points to be taking into play, crucial points to be going at, as again, a good run for Carl Winkler through this section. He needs to be incredibly decisive now about how he makes this move and when he decides to make this move down this straight, because he closed the gap, 3 tenths, 2 tenths, 1 tenths to the inside. Bread and butter basics.
Yeah, we've seen that already a couple of times from Carl Winkler in this second stint, using those fresher tyres to his advantage to get the runs off the corners and set up those ERS and DRS passes. And look at that, he's already pulled out so much of a gap over Montañez already, just getting a much better drive off the corner, as Sebastian Job, in fact, almost within DRS range at this point. 0.2 of a second still needed from him. And with 8 laps to go, things are looking pretty positive right now for Sebastian Job. Another couple more laps like that, and he's definitely back into play in terms of trying to challenge for this race lead right at the dying end of this race here. So let's just see what happens over the next couple laps. Look at that, the gap is coming down now. 1.08 seconds as they come down into the brakes in towards the Jala Rogia. So Job, he's trying everything he possibly can do, trying to find the maximum pace out of the Core Sim racing car. And right now, it's definitely working for him. I think Rogers, he's trying to reply to these very, very fast lap times. But as we saw him push wide a couple of laps ago, I think he's starting to try a little bit too much, and that car is coming away.
He is, and he started to lose it at least last lap at the Ascari chicane. He goes through there this time around and a bit more calm and stable. Dirty Air would have had something to play as well. But these two are in a real fight here for the win. This is real. There are no team orders, different teams, different drivers, different countries. They're all in it. Freddie Rasmussen, 7 seconds behind. He's probably got no realistic chance at this stage, unless these two collide, of course. And Michael Dinkel, our pole sitter, in 4th. You know, if I spoke to Michael Dinkel a year or 2 years ago and said that he would be on pole position and struggle with race pace, he would have laughed at me. It was always the other way around. Yeah, 2 years ago, I would have told him that you'd be a strong qualifier in 2 years' time. And I also actually tell him to invest in Bitcoin, because he'd probably be pretty rich at this stage.
Yeah, what is it with you and Bitcoins? I just don't know, Johnny. Maybe you have a huge investment in them.
If you can set yourself up for free Heisenfeld wheels and Bodnar wheels, which cost so much, I'd be investing in Bitcoin 2 years ago, and so I can afford all of that stuff. Some of these drivers have like 2 clutches and everything. I can't afford that. I just hear the stories from the driver. All the prize money, and Job almost lost it. Wow.
That was so close for Job as he runs a little bit wide there again, coming through the second Lesmo. But let's just try to get a replay of that one. Coming through the middle of the first Lesmo, and well, coming through the sort of last stages of it, he gets a slide on coming over the curb, and that could have ended his race definitely if he spun towards that inside tire barrier, Jake. And we've seen that on more than one occasion this season. Job playing with fire.
Yes, a very similar thing to Lewis Hamilton maybe back in his McLaren days. Sebastian Job, the rear was starting to go away midway through the corner. He tried to manage it, had the back step out on him, and that's going to cost him a lot of time in comparison to Sebastian Job. From 1.1 seconds the gap, it moves up to 1.5. That's 4/10 of a second on that lap, but give credit, it was still a 25-1 from Sebastian Job. This race is not over here. It's 6 to go, and Sebastian Job knows that he has got to put everything in this basket for the win.
Just imagine what the lap time would have been if he didn't have that slide. That was on for a fantastic lap going through there, but one corner basically pretty much ruined it, and brings him back in towards the 125.1s. But Rogers replying with 124.6 right now, which is pretty much the fastest, in fact the fastest of anyone that last time, by even the driver of Freddie Rasmussen, who had previously been setting very quick lap times indeed. It's actually Diego Oliveira by Spolzer. They're heading side by side into the rectifilia chicane. Spolzer will come out on top in that particular situation, so put him up in towards P number 11. Oliveira could still potentially reply as they head their way through the Curva Grande. On the brakes possibly for Oliveira to head his way by in the Della Roja, but no, he's just going to drop back for now. Harvest a little bit of DRS, goes deep on the brakes anyway, but no gap for him to be able to stick his nose in. As he actually, Job, has he given up here? That is the question. The gap is back up to 1.8 seconds now, so another 0.3 of a second lost on this last lap. Is he just trying to nurse that car to the end now, Johnny?
Well, is it worth going for the win? Now, you do need the points, so he may indeed be nursing that car home, as you say. He doesn't want to push it or bin it into the wall. Been some iconic last lap incidents here. Lewis Hamilton in 2009 comes to mind when you think about Formula One in the real world. Final lap, binned it, was pushing too hard for an unrealistic chance, really, at gaining a position. So Sebastian Job, the same. Is he actually going to get past into the lead, or is it going to be too much of a risk? That's the trade-off he has to start looking at. And I think at this stage of the race, he just needs to settle for some good points. You know, this is the last drop round. Use it wisely.
Yeah, he can't afford to have any more terrible results. He's already used his drop peak. He's already got a couple other non-finishes as well. He can't afford to bin it at this stage. As P number 6, P number 7 heading their way down into the Della Roja. Oscar and Mark Lohner. These guys have been battling throughout almost the entirety of the second stint here, and they're still stuck together like glue. Mark Lohner gaining 0.2 of a second that last time by across the line. Alex Bergeron and Calistani, they'll be heading their way side by side into the Filio, and Calistani is going to go on top of that one as he gets a huge amount of oversteer, huge amount of snap oversteer coming off the corner there, but still manages to somehow get the traction down as Alex Bergeron is tracking him very closely. Both go around the outside at the Curva Grande there, which is very interesting indeed. Defensive inside line possibly taken here from Calistani, moves back towards the center of the track, and Bergeron still not able to find his way back by the Positive Sim Racing driver as they head their way into the Lesmos now. Another 1/10 of a second taken out for Sebastian Job at the front, so I don't think he's entirely given up at this stage. But yes, credit to Alex Bergeron. He's had an all right race so far, and a good job at avoiding any sort of incident there, Johnny, as you say.
yeah, credit to him, because drivers in that situation, they're just not aware of the driver in front. They lose traction and they collect them in the rear end. And yeah, okay, the driver in front lost traction, but you should be aware behind. And that's just credit to Alex Bergeron, the young man. He's able to see that Calistani suffered with some traction issues out of turn 1. And Bergeron backed off.
Number 8 of Boris Spolcha has to straight line the chicane while involved in a battle with Zoran Jonjic, heading down on towards the brakes there. And Spolcha, I don't think he clipped the grass like we saw as a whoa there from Jake.
Yeah, that was Diogo Oliveira almost running into the back of his own teammate there, and there was a big back off from Oliveira. I think there will be a few words between them, because there was Spolstra in the middle of Curva Grande there, and Oliveira had to go to the outside to try and avoid it. He didn't see that coming.
No, he really didn't, as the car of Spolcha was parked basically in the middle of the track there. So Oliver had to make the decision, went towards the outside, and almost a bit of contact between those two drivers. And in fact, I think that front wing has started to crimple up a little bit. In fact, yeah, it did damage that front wing. So Oliver nursing a little bit of front wing damage right now. Sebastian Job, 1.4 seconds with 3 laps to go. So that is the margin that the Core Sim Racing driver has to make up at this stage. The young British driver has a lot to work on here, but he's bringing that gap back down to around about where it once was, 1.4 seconds, so another 10th on his lap alone. But he did get a huge, big twitch there coming out of the De La Rocha chicane, and that's not going to help his lap times gap back up to 1.7. Surely this isn't possible now, Johnny.
Well, we'll wait and see. I'm getting nervous. This is what we like to see in motor racing. This is brilliant. Straight dogfight for the win. Only a few laps to go and a couple of lap cars to make things interesting. And so let's see if Rogers can hold on.
Yeah, it's going to have to be another situation of Rogers holding on, exactly like his race win already in this series at Suzuka, with those tires coming away from him. His tire wear issues aren't as exacerbated in this race because the track is quite kind to these Pirelli tires on these McLaren MP430, so he has the track to thank for that one. But heading on to 2 laps to go now, gap is going to be 1.46 as they head their way across the line. Still a battle going on for P number 5 though, between Ostgaard and Lohner. That one hasn't spread out at all as they head their way down in towards Paravolka to start their second to last laps. And we've also got Calistani and Alex Bergeron still close together further back through the field as well. So that is the state of things as it is right now with 2 laps to go. Job, he's put in a fantastic first sector here, closes up 1/10 of a second, gap down to 1.3. And this is the crucial thing here, Jake. There's traffic ahead. There's Istvan Ballo that could potentially change everything here.
It depends how and when they catch Istvan Ballo in this situation, because Ballo will be the gentleman. He will let through the drivers who are slower. He will decide that when they get within close enough range, they will do enough. And especially coming on to this last lap, if there's DRS available here for Josh Rogers, he will take that by the scruff of the neck. It's been a fantastic drive from Josh Rogers so far today, and I think it's worth saying this even before it. The gap 1.1 seconds now, with Job almost getting DRS. Even whatever the result is, I think TTL Esports has a superstar.
Yeah, meanwhile, Bergeron and Calistani side by side into Reggio chicane. That's Calistani going to come out on top. But looking back towards the front of the field, I think he's going to catch Istvan Ballo in a pretty okay place if Istvan Ballo lifts off here. But I think he's going to actually stay ahead coming in towards the Reggio chicane. 1 lap to go for these guys. White flag is in the air, and there's more than 1 bit of lap traffic potentially that Rogers has to deal with here as he heads his way through the Reggio chicane. Gap down under a second now. So potentially run up towards a for Sebastian Job with the DRS. It's a very unorthodox overtaking opportunity, but he could possibly pull it off if he's close enough. Rogers has to be very, very mechanical and consistent through this last couple of last lap here to try and take away this race win. Make sure those tires are fine. Make sure he doesn't spin the car at any point on the track. Still behind Istvan Ballo, potentially dealing with a little bit of the dirty air effect as Job still within a second will have DRS heading up under the Fly Emirates banner there and towards the DRS zone. And in fact, Joshua Rogers will have the DRS off of Esteban Ballo. That's going to benefit him as he heads his way up towards the Ascari chicane. Gap is still 9/10 of a second at this stage. Rogers, he has one foot on the top of the podium right now. Just one more corner to go. The ever famous Curva Parabolica, and he can claim his second win of the season with traffic ahead. He's just got to be so careful. Tiptoe through this Parabolica. Make sure you get the power down, Joshua Rogers, because you are a two-time race winner in the iRacing Road Pro Series. TTL Esports get there second. Sebastian Job will have to settle for second place on the podium. Fredrik Rasmussen will head his way on towards the final step there. Michael Dinkel will have to settle for P number 4 as well, and his Apex Racing teammate P number 5 as he heads his way through the curve of Parabolica. That battle between Ostgaard and Moritz Lohnher, well, Ostgaard is going to come out on top of that particular battle as Simpson's very slow out of the Parabolica there. Could potentially be a fuel issue for him as Moritz Lohnher will head his way across the line now. It's still not over yet though between Bergeron and Calistani as they head their way out towards the Ascari. Here comes Bergeron down the inside. What? That's a fantastic move from Bergeron. Tries to get the apex and he does get the apex with a huge slide. That was a brilliant move from Bergeron, the young Canadian. But can he hold it on through the final corner, through the Parabolica? Calistani is going to close up with the slipstream. Doesn't have any DRS, of course, on this straight. Yeah, and he won't have any on the next straight. Deep on the brakes he goes, tries to reply coming down into the Parabolica. But it was going to be a try, but it wasn't going to come off for Calistani. At Bergeron, P number 13. Believe it or not, that would have been a battle for the race win. If I would have loved that for to be a battle for a race win. But Bergeron, just take a bow. That was an insane pass at the Ascari chicane, Jake.
Oh, Canada, what a move from Alex Bergeron. You don't do him better than that. And this is the thing that I need to say about Alex Bergeron. If you had this of Alex Bergeron 1 year ago, you'd say absolutely fantastic talent, do very well. He's done so well over this past year to develop, to learn, and to improve. And it's moves like that that say there's proof in the pudding that Alex Bergeron, arguably one of the most versatile drivers on iRacing, very similar to the likes of a PJ Sturgis, arguably one of the best as well.
Of course, his driver that knows how to control slides with his wealth of experience in the sprint cars on the dirt ovals, but I kind of have to take a breath here. We will go through your final race results for round number 6 of the Road Pro Series here at Monza. Taking the race win will be Joshua K. Rogers. The Australian does it again. Donuts on the start-finish straight for him as he will take his second win of the season over Sebastian Job, P number 2. Fredrik Rasmussen will get himself on towards the final step of the podium. So double podium for Corsair Racing, just not the double podium that they would have wanted. They would have wanted a 1-2, but Rogers manages to spoil that party. Michael Dinkel and Alex Simpson will get an Apex Racing UK P4, P5. Tommy Ostgaard, Moritz Lohnher, David Williams, Ricardo Orozco, and Zoran Jonjic will round out your top 10 when all is said and done. Particularly good race for Jonjic, picking up those 7 positions. Then it's going to be Boris Spolcher, Diego Oliveira, Alex Bergeron with that fantastic final lap pass. One of the best final lap passes I've ever seen in the whole of iRacing. As Matteo Calistani will be the victim of that particular pass, shall we say. Then it's going to be Carl Winkler getting himself P number 15. Jorge Montanez P16. Gobi 17. Ivan Lothorius number 18. Esteban Ballo will get himself P number 19. Riley Preston drop back through the field, qualified 3rd place, has to pick up to P number 20 when all is said and done. And then the cars lapse down, likes of Carl Germanton, Nicholas Rasmussen, and the cars that unfortunately have retired from this race. Michael Partington, Bobby Zelensky, and Eric Andre, Giuseppe Ragusa, Adam Tierney, Josh Thompson, and Aurelian Talmon. Well, we just have to catch a little bit more of a breath here as we will go to a quick commercial break, but we will be back for the post-race show. And I wonder what people are going to say about this one, especially Alex Bergeron, as we will head towards the post-race show right about now. Just don't go away. Welcome back for the post-race show for round number 6 of the iRacing Road Pro Series here at Monza. And well, it was a very, very frantic last lap. Joshua Rogers did manage to hold on to bring himself home the race win, the second of the season, and fantastic battles further down through the field as well, as we do have a couple of drivers getting ready for their interviews right now. And Johnny, will you take it away with the P number 4 driver of Michael Dinkel?
We're going to drag him up here first. There he is. Michael Dinkel came home 4th today. First of all, Michael, how are you? You had pole position. If I had told you 2 years ago that you'd have slower race pace than qualifying pace, you'd laugh at me. And today, though, just not enough pace to win.
Yeah, that's true. Sign what you said. Yeah, but it's okay. I mean, it's Monza. It's, what shall I say? It's this track. I enjoy this track so much.
Yeah, but similar to Suzuka and the past couple of rounds as well, you've just been so quick in qualifying. Is there a specific reason for that? Is it the low speed setup that suits you, or the low fuel setup when the car's light, or is there just, what's the Apex Racing secret to qualifying?
Well, I think there is no secret. I mean, everyone is driving basically quite the same setup. At the end, you have to do it in these 2 laps you have. So, I mean, I did a good lap. It was really good. I was surprised to be up there again by 1.5. And yeah, at the end, it's just 2 laps. I mean, I have no real explanation for it.
There were talks of drivers actually maybe possibly going in a 0 stop. It happened in the World Championship with Joni Tormala. Nobody really 0 stopped here today. Was that something you even considered throughout testing and practice?
Honestly, passing is so easy here with worn tires at the end. The problem is not the stopping. The problem is the time you lose because of the first stint with quite a high fuel load. Therefore, the car is suffering a lot. When everyone is picking up pace or doing their tire change, you can easily outpass the guy who has not made a pit stop. The only way I can believe is it possible to do it is just by having an incident in the first lap, and then you're running out of options, because the quickest way around Monza normally is in a full distance race, a 1 stop. The same is here. There's only a reason to do it when you have an incident in the laps prior your main pit stop.
And bonus question, actually, talk about your start. That's one of the best starts I've ever seen in the McLaren. You just rocketed off the line, never looked back. You had turn 1 all to yourself.
Yeah, but it was on the edge. I mean, the car was wiggling all the way. I just had to get out of the gas in the first part because it was already on the edge. And you hear the tire slightly spinning. And yeah, it was just lucky to do this. You only do this once in your life. Therefore, but at the end, it's not about the start. We have to do 1 hour and 15 minutes of race, so it's decided there. Today it wasn't. It shouldn't be, but I mean, come on, it's racing. So the others were better today. So congrats to him. So to them, sorry.
No, there you go. Michael Dinkel there, Connery again, the humble Michael, and he comes home in 4th, just outside the podium positions, unfortunately, but again, a strong qualifying performance. Really like that from him.
Yep, absolutely fantastic to see. Just a little bit of work on the race pace there, Michael, but I'm sure you won't mind that one, as we do have we do actually have our race winner there waiting for an interview. It's Joshua Rogers, and he's going to be standing by with Mr. Sperry.
Apparently, he will be. Josh Rogers with another defensive drive to victory, but one which you can definitely say will be one of the sweetest victories that you will taste all year, this year, and probably into next year as well, because you had to work hard for that one during this race. You didn't get the best of starts. You were shuffled down in the 4 wide at the very beginning and then had to work your way back up to try and get to the lead. And honestly, that was probably the most difficult part of your race, surely.
Yeah, for sure. You've probably noticed that my start was abysmal. Yeah, that wasn't good. But yeah, turn 1, obviously we got through clean. Really spewing about that netco contact with Riley. I probably took him out of a chance at a really good finish. So apologies for that. It's really unfortunate, but sometimes you can't help that. But yeah, obviously it was quite difficult moving through the field. It was nice that Moritz didn't put up too much of a fight. I think I kind of dragged him up to Michael a little bit in that same sense, but yeah, pretty early on I was kind of thinking about doing that undercut. It seemed to work for the core guys previous weeks, and I was always the kind of one to go a little bit longer, so we thought we'll try go early this time. Thankfully the tyres held up a lot better than I expected, which was good. Probably allowed us to hold off Seb a little bit harder, but yeah, I was put under the pump there. He was putting the pressure on 110% all the time, so yeah, congrats to him too.
Yeah, good congratulations for him for his second place finish. And of course, with what happened with Riley Preston, is there any more that you can say to be the unluckiest man in sim racing personified? But to you, Josh, you know, those final few laps, you were looking at that gap being 1.9, it's suddenly 1.8, and suddenly it drops 1.5, and you start thinking, okay, how am I going to put the pressure on? How am I going to keep this pace up? And your consistency value actually towards the end of that event is something that I don't think really was touched on. The amount of 24.6s, 24.5s that were done at crucial moments in the final few laps. I mean, when you have yourself a difference of only half a second on the tyres coming towards the end of a race, you know, is that a sense of consistency that you try and implement as a key philosophy to your driving style?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, it's very important to not only be quick, but be able to do it lap in, lap out. And obviously, you're not going to be able to get good results if you're kind of half a second all over the shot. So yeah, it's really important. It's something that I like to make sure that I'm on top of my consistency. It also helps with tyre wear, fuel burn, all that kind of thing.
And what will also help is the fact that you gain points at the top of the championship with a second win. No drop weeks as you head to Spa-Francorchamps in a couple of weeks' time. And Spa, one of those circuits which can be hit and miss for certain drivers, of course, very much like Circuit of the Americas in the sense that it's got a little bit of everything. So Spa-Francorchamps, how do you feel about it?
Spa, where do I start? Technical, high speed, slow. It's just got a bit of everything. Passing spot. It's an everything track, and I think the fact that it's so historical also, and coming to Road Pro Series as it probably always does, it'll put on a show as usual. Hopefully we don't see too much too wide through Eau Rouge. I'm not too keen on that, but yeah, looking forward to next week for sure.
No worries. And before we let you go, Josh, any shout outs to sponsors you'd like to give for your race victory here this afternoon?
Huge thanks as always to TTL Esports. They do a spectacular job at taking care of me and also making sure that we can be fighting where we are. Also Jake Maloney for staying up in the early hours of the morning to spot for me today. Hyperstimulator, our major sponsor, Down Under Graphics, Curse Designs Lab, SimSpec Engineering, and also our new driver academy which appeared on the car this weekend. So fingers crossed that can all go well.
Well, fingers crossed indeed, and good luck in the new venture. Surely a special driver indeed, Connery. Josh Rogers, a sensational race victory again.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Impresses me every single race so far in this series, and does it yet again here at Monza. As looking at the two Alexes waiting in the interview waiting room.
Which one's which?
Here. As we all get Alex Simpson, the one that does not have his surname listed on his label there, as we will drag him in. And I will take this one as we try to let the door open. There we go. Actually, he's going to be moved. There we go. Finally, we get him in the box here. And it's going to be Alex Simpson for Apex Racing UK, of course, driver and team boss. And, well, just got to go right back to that start on the first lap. It was a bit of a scary sort of situation for you because you had a 4 wide in front of you, and that must be very, very scary considering the next corner is the Retteville chicane, and for some reason, and I don't think 4 wide is going to work down into there.
Yeah, not so much. Hi guys, good to be here as always. But yeah, I got a great start as well and just couldn't go anywhere. So I'm just looking at my replay now. I mean, I was lifting at like nearly sort of 250 meters out, because I had such a good run, and I was just going to plow into the back of them, and I was just hoping and praying that the people behind were going to use a bit of common sense as well. But then all of a sudden I was 3 wide as well, so I was like, oh, I'm in the middle, 3 wide. That's the last thing you want to hear in that chicane.
Yep, and somehow you managed to make your way through relatively unscathed, which just good to show the racecraft of these drivers at the front of the field. As speaking of at the front of the field, at least in those early stages, your teammate got an absolutely fantastic launch off the line. As I said at the time, one of the best starts I've ever seen, and you had a pretty decent start as well. So you've really got that thing locked down.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not going to shy away from the question. Everybody knows that, you know, we're using a dual clutch hardware system now, you know, so they seem to become more and more popular, and yeah, it really helps off of the start, you know, getting the bike point. You just got to tweak the bike point in the practice for the right weather, and, you know, it's a couple of buttons and go. So yeah, it's quite a help, and you know, if you struggle with the starts, then, you know, invest in one. It's worth doing.
Yep, and well, overall, you did gain a couple of positions on your P7 qualifying position. Got yourself up in towards inside that top 5, in fact, and that's generally where you've been pretty much throughout the entirety of this season, just middle of that top 10, and you're scoring these consistent points, and scoring consistent points is all that's needed to get inside that top 10 in the standings for getting your Pro WC license back, in your case there, Alex. But you know, coming into the last 4 rounds now, there are no drop weeks. So if you make a mistake, that is going to hurt you so much. So you've been consistent so far. It is absolutely crucial that you're consistent in the next 4 rounds now, because you know, one tap with the Armco barrier and that could be the end of things. But you've been doing relatively well so far.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I think we spoke after not Suzuka, Silverstone, and I sort of said, you know, the goal was obviously to get the license back. So good, consistent results. The car today was good. I went for a car that was a bit safer over the some of the high curves that we have here. It perhaps wasn't the quickest way to go, but after Kota last week with yeah, hitting that curb just a bit awkwardly and it spitting me off the track, I knew that you know, that was my drop and that I just had to finish today. And my biggest issue with this car is the braking, to be fair. So, you know, Monza is all about the braking. So I just needed to make the car as safe for me to drive today. And to get a top 5, I was pretty happy with that. I don't think I had anything for any of the guys ahead. And I certainly wasn't going to push to try and to sort of keep up with them. And I think moving into the final races, I'll be driving very similar. Hopefully, you know, we can get a good set under the car and the performance will be there anyway, so, you know, we can challenge for those top 5 every race, and, you know, maybe get a couple more podiums. That'll be nice, and you know, if we're lucky, maybe sneak a win.
Yeah, maybe sneak a win somewhere in the final 4 rounds, but looking more in towards the slightly more distant future, if of course you two, Michael Dinkel and Alex Simpson yourself, get yourself your pro licenses back and head your way into the 2018 World Championship Grand Prix Series. What's the plan for Apex Racing UK in that sort of situation? I know the plan has always been to look for podiums, maybe the occasional win for your team, but that occasional win just hasn't been occasional at all. So you haven't just got one yet, so with a couple of years in the series. But do you think 2018 could be your year?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to think so. You know, let's be honest and upfront here right now. Coanda are ridiculously quick. You know, everybody is chasing them. Everybody's goal. You know, doesn't matter who they are. Redline, us, Poor. You know, we want to compete and try and beat, you know, Martin. We don't want that 100% clean sweep for him again. So just to, you know, to get one, I would be delighted. You know, that would be an achievement for the team. We've had plenty of podiums. You know, we want to challenge those guys. You know, we definitely have found a few things this season that you know, have moved us forward towards the end of last year's WCS that we've took into the Pro Series. I'll sit here and put my hands up and say I'm not the quickest driver out there, so to have top 5s and be able to have races where, you know, I'm able to like at Silverstone, be just a few seconds behind Seb before he made his mistake and things like that. I'm pretty delighted with that, so I feel like the team is definitely moving in the right direction, and I hope, you know, once we see the likes of, you know, Peter and Jamie and Marcus back on the circuit, that those guys are going to be mixing it in the top 5 against all of the competitors next year. So, like I say, I'm under no illusions thinking, oh yeah, we're going to come in there and smash some wins, because, you know, that's a mighty competitor in Coanda right now that we're trying to hunt down.
Yeah, and the question is just, can anyone topple Martin Kroenke and get the race win in the 2018 season? We'll just have to wait and see. But anyone you want to thank before we let you go, Alex?
Yeah, just to you guys, as always, doing a great job, and yeah, keep doing what you're doing. The whole team really. So we've been working together quite well throughout this season. It's good to be back. All the sponsors, my dad, who always does a spot in for me, never gets a mention, and he has to listen to me rage in his ear when I complain about nearly running out of fuel with 5 laps to go. And but yeah, he's the silent hero. So yep, that's it really.
We did notice you were quite slow out the parabolica coming towards the line. I was wondering what the issue was.
I had run out of fuel. Yeah, I was spluttering. So yeah.
Yeah, just cutting it fine there.
I was lift coasting for the last 5 laps of the race just to try and get there. So.
Yeah, very fine stuff. But thank you very much for joining us, Alex. That's Alex Simpson, team boss of Apex Racing UK, and of course, a very good driver for them, as well as we have another Alex waiting for an interview right now. This is going to be the driver of Alex Bergeron, the Canadian driver that pulled off that insane move on the final lap. And I think, Johnny, you're going to take this one. If Johnny is here. How about Jake?
Yes.
Maybe Will can do it.
Well, no, I'll do it. I wasn't expecting that there, Connery. Alex Bergeron, again, brilliant move on the final lap. You actually got Connery sending tweets out based on that move. Talk about it there through Ascari.
Well, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, was close though. My tire were done at the end. I have no grip, so I tried everything I can, and well, it works. So now we might have a chance at the top 10 for the top of the season. So we'll see. It's pretty close in the standing as well. So looking forward.
And throughout the race as well, you were involved in some battles with Calistani there on the final lap, but you started and finished in the same spot as well. So not the best result you would have wanted. You always want to finish higher than that, but what are your chances now for that top 10 finish in the championship?
It's like I say, it's pretty close. I still got a chance. It's, let's say, 50%. It's like, it's gonna work or no, but we'll see. I mean, with all the dirt and racing and asphalt racing, NASCAR and stuff like that, it's pretty tough to have a lot of practice. And you know, it's pretty happy with the result this morning, and we'll see next week how it's gonna be. But I think I'm getting on pace a little bit more. I don't know what happened, but getting on pace a little bit, so pretty happy with that.
And you've driven the McLaren for quite a bit of time, but you said you're finally getting on pace with it. Is it such a difficult car to master? Because a lot of people say it's probably the most difficult car on iRacing right now to master. Do you agree or do you disagree?
Well, I totally agree. I'm not joking. It's very tough. The driving style is there's nothing compared to that. Even a sprint car, like yes, everything. Like if you drive many stuff, it's gonna be a little bit easier, but at the same time, it requires a lot of practice only for that car. So yeah, it's tough, but I'm trying to get it on it a little bit more, and it pays off a little bit. So hopefully it's gonna work.
Yeah, cool. Merry Christmas. Enjoy the break. We'll see you at Spa and over the new year.
Thank you, and all thanks ERT Evolution Racing Team for all their hard work and for having a good car all week long, and every week I should say, and all my sponsors and Real Time and Logitech G. So and for you guys to broadcast, it's pretty awesome to have you guys on board for the series again.
Yeah, there you go, Connery.
Yeah, well, there we go. Yep, there we go, and that will round out the entirety of our interview section of the post-race show. And before we go here, just a last couple of words maybe from you, Jake, about that race?
You can't ask for much better for a race that really did prove that everybody has an opportunity Everybody has a chance to gain positions. It was a lifeline for Core in the fact that they gained all those positions during this race, and you can't take that away. But a lot of drivers slipped up here today on the final chance they had to slip up, and some who had already slipped up couldn't have afforded that opportunity. Now there is no opportunity left. Now you've got to do 4 races the best you can. If you don't, then this is where the men and the boys are separated.
Johnny, final thoughts?
Another good race again for the Pro Series. Good to see that no catastrophic races, I should say, better word there. No catastrophic races for any of those top championship challenges. So a strong top 5 finish for Rogers, Job, Rasmussen, Dinkel, and Simpson. So good to see them claiming some good points.
Yeah, very, very good indeed. As we will wrap things up here for round number 6 of the iRacing Road Pro Series. I have been Connery Maddock, and I've been joined by the likes of Jake Sperry and Jonathan Simone. We've also got Will Vincent directing behind the cameras as well. And well, next time out, it's going to be Spa-Francorchamps for the final 4 rounds of the championship. The first round where drop weeks are not in effect. You're not going to want to miss that one. Goodbye.